Annette Kelly is suing her ex-boyfriend, Richard Rick Sarna, for money lost when she co-signed on his Ford Expedition. Janet says Rick is a con man.
Order. All rise.
Now, this is case number 32 on the calendar in the matter of Kelly versus Sarna. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Kelly, have you ever watched this courtroom program in the last 10 years? You ever watch me?
Yes.
Did you ever watch me with women?
Yes.
Did you ever watch me tell women, don't get him a credit card, don't take out a loan for him, don't buy him a cell phone, don't buy him clothes? Did you ever hear me say that?
Yes, I have stupid right here.
Now, in all the time that you've watched this program, can you think of a percentage of the times that you have the man on that side and the woman on that side of the bench, and he's complaining because he gave her credit cards and a cell phone and clothes, a computer, and got rims for her car? Can you think of how many times
Never.
you saw that? Maybe on one hand in 10 years. It's always the other way around. You look like an intelligent woman. Why do you think that is, Miss Kelly?
Because I was brought up that way.
To what?
To be honest and truthful.
You weren't brought up to be a sucker.
No.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yes. Well, I didn't think I'd meet a con man either.
Let's go back a bit.
Okay.
It's your claim that you met Mr. Sarna. He needed a car. To make a long story short, in September or October, he found a car. It was a very expensive car. What kind of car did you find, Mr. Sarna?
A Ford Expedition.
That's a pretty big car. And how much was the car, sir?
$45,000, I think, somewhere in that area.
$45,000. With tax and tags, it came up to close to $50,000.
I'm not sure if the 45 was everything or if it's, I'm not positive.
49.
Close to 50.
Okay.
And you didn't have any credit, is that right?
No, I had credit, but
But you had lousy credit.
I had one error on my credit report, which I had to clear it up right here.
Put it down. Whatever. You couldn't get a loan on the car.
Right. It showed me having 2 mortgages. And I only had the one.
Listen, that's not my problem. Bottom line is, you saw this $50,000 car and you could not get a loan in your name on it, right?
Well, that's what they told me because of the error on my credit report.
Who do you think's going to have the last word here, you or me?
You will, Your Honor.
You're absolutely right. So you couldn't get a loan, correct?
At that time.
So what did you do?
Well, the salesman suggested to Miss Kelly that she put the loan in her name, and then after I got the credit taken care of, we could refinance the vehicle and put it in my name.
Bottom line, she got the loan in her name.
Correct.
And in order for the loan to be in her name, she had to have her name on the title to the car, right?
Correct.
Is his name on the title too?
No.
Just yours?
Just mine.
That was in September of 2005?
Correct.
So you had the car part of September,
Correct.
part of October,
Correct.
and part of November.
Correct.
And then she took the car back.
Correct.
Your lawsuit is you took the car back because you found out that he was a fraud, that he had had lots of bad credit. That's what you say. You didn't want to be subjected to the vagaries of his financial problems, and you felt as if you had been deceived. You took the car back, ultimately sold it back to the company, and you took a $24,000 loss. And you want him to at least pay $5,000 of that. Why didn't you sell the car privately?
I did try to sell it privately. I tried to sell it for 2 months. I had it on eBay. I had it in Auto
Well, you
Trader.
certainly could have sold it without taking a $25,000 loss.
I had it up for sale like the next day, driving around with signs on it, advertising it. Nobody was calling because it was during the holidays. I guess people don't buy cars at that time.
Miss Kelly, why would they take off after 3 months $25,000? Show me. I want to see how much they gave you on the car.
That's right here. I sold it to Mossy Ford. I had to pay these 2 checks add up to $24,000. I had to go take a second out on my home to pay this off because otherwise I would have had to just turn the car over and file bankruptcy myself. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have bad credit. I worked hard to establish the good credit I had, and I didn't want this person to ruin my credit. He doesn't realize what he did.
Okay. Now, when was the first payment due on the car, Mr. Sarna?
It was October 20th, I believe, Your Honor.
Did you make that payment?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you made 1 payment on the car?
No, I made 2 payments.
When was the next payment?
November 20th.
Now I'd like you to show me the proof of those 2 payments.
This was a copy of the final payment that I made because it was 2 days right before that we had broken up. I have the check number for the other one, but I don't have a copy of it.
Okay. Now, when did you meet Mr. Sarna, Miss Kelly?
I met him New Year's Eve, 2004.
So at the time you took out this loan, you had known him for approximately 8 months.
He was my neighbor. He moved in 2 doors down from me, and we started dating.
Okay, fine.
And you want to hear the story?
Well, I want you to tell me what cause of action you think you had. You had an agreement with Mr. Sarna, as far as I can tell. The agreement was that he was to make the payments on the car until he could get it refinanced into his name.
Correct.
And once he did that, you would be off the hook.
Yes.
He made the payments on the car.
Correct.
October and November. November 21st, according to your complaint, you went and took the car back.
Yes.
And he had made his last payment on
November 20th.
November 17th. So up until that point, you had no basis to take the car back.
No, because
that was just a second, because that was your contract with him.
Correct.
That was your verbal agreement with him. Your verbal agreement was he would make the payments, the car would be in your name until he paid off the car, or got his credit cleared up and was able to take the loan out of your name and put it in his name. Now, what intervening factor was there that you believe voids that contract?
Well, when we were dating, we were seeing quite a bit of each other, and Rick and his daughter was always over at my home with my daughter, and we were becoming like a family. We were playing games together. I was cooking dinner. We were just really happy. So we did decide to live together, but before we did that, I was over at his house, and I said, are you in any kind of financial debt? Because he is a server, and I think he was upset by me asking him that, because I know his rent is $1,600, and he had his car payment and his utilities, and he paid for his daughter's college. And so I was just a little bit skeptical, and he told me, he goes, Janet, he goes, I make as much money as you do. And I'm thinking, well, I don't think so, but why would I not believe him?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Bing, ling, 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 ling.
But I wasn't thinking.
Listen.
I was thinking.
Ding, a ling, a ling, a ling, a ling.
I know that now.
Well, then what are you doing here, Miss Kelly?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Kelly is suing her ex-boyfriend, Richard Rick Sarna, for money lost when she co-signed on his Ford Expedition. Janet says Rick is a con man.
Go ahead.
So we decided to move in. He decided to move in, and so he started moving his daughter's stuff over.
When?
This was probably the middle of September.
When did he move in?
He never did really move in.
Right.
Because
according to your complaints, he started moving his things in November.
Yes.
And that was after the car was purchased.
Yes.
So you had had this discussion with him.
I had the
before he moved in.
Before he moved in. I had the discussion before the car was purchased.
Well, that's not what you told me.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant we had
the discussion. We were talking about moving in.
His daughter started moving in, and he took my daughter's computer out of the room and hooked up his daughter's computer.
Get to something that's
okay,
important,
well,
please.
I went in there to use the computer, and he had just put this brand new desk together, and I opened up the cupboards and looked in the desk, and there was all of his bills. So I pulled the bills out. And he had the IRS after him from back in 2003. All of his utilities were 2 to 3 months delinquent, and he had a credit card with over $10,000 on it, and the minimum payment was $562, and he was only paying $30 on that. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, my name is on this vehicle, and I found all of these bills. And I asked him point blank, do you have any financial debts? And he said no. So why would I ask him any more than that? And so when he came home from work, I confronted him right then and there. And I said, what is this? And he goes, I can't believe you don't have any respect for me. You went through my stuff. I said, no, I didn't go through stuff. I just looked in there. It's out of character me to snoop, but something told me to look there, and I did. So he told me, he goes, look, he goes, you don't pay those bills. Do I ever ask you to pay those? I said, no. I said, but you are not paying those bills either. I said, now you have another bill to have to pay. I said, if you were smart, you would have paid off all of your bills, and then you would have bought another car. You don't go out and get more into debt with my good name.
You're absolutely right.
It's not right. I work too hard to get the things I have. I don't put things on credit. I pay for them cash.
So why did you do it for him?
Because I loved him.
Right.
I know. Stupid. I know.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a buyer for a biotech company.
You know how to do a credit background and credit check on somebody?
Yes.
That's all you had to do.
Well, why would I run a credit check on somebody?
Because you already had somewhere in the back of your mind that he's a waiter, so you had a question to begin with, right?
Yes.
You were buying a $50,000 car. You could find a car for $15,000 too, right?
Correct.
You could have found a cheaper car, but you didn't. You found a really expensive car that you liked. When he went to get the loan for the car, you were with him, and they said to him, sorry. Bing, ling, 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 ling.
I know. But I wasn't thinking.
Listen.
I was thinking.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
I know. I know that now.
Well, then what are you doing here, Miss Kelly? What are you doing here? You had a contract with Mr. Sarna, as a ridiculous contract as it was, that he was going to make these car payments. Car was in your name. He was going to, at some point, get the car put in his name. You found these outstanding bills and loans, and without saying to him, listen, you have 30 days.
I did say that.
Just a second. You have 30 days to get this loan out of my name and put it in your name, or I'm taking the car back. You didn't do that. According to your complaint, you took the car back that day.
No. Here, I have a promissory note that I had made up on the 10th of November, and...
Your Honor, this is what I was dealing with every day. It's one day it's one way, one day it's the next.
Oh, Mr. Sarna, you think I feel sorry for you, sir?
No.
You behaved like a pig. You got somebody else to put their name on the line. You owe the IRS money.
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Did you owe the IRS money?
I did.
How much?
What's paid off, it was $1,000 originally. It was on a monthly installment.
How much did you pay them?
The final balance, I mean, or...
The total.
The total amount was like $1,900 or something like that.
You just told me it was $1,000.
No, you said when I paid it off at the time when I was with Ms.
No,
Kelly.
I said, what was the total you owed the IRS?
About $1,900.
When?
From the year before 2004. But it was on a monthly
The year before 2004 would be 2003. What's the matter? That's hard?
The year before we met.
What kind of car do you have now?
It's a Nissan Xterra.
Nissan Xterra.
Yes.
he went out 2 days late.
Nissan Xterra.
Correct.
In whose name is it?
It's in my daughter's name and my name.
How old's your daughter?
My daughter is 20. My name is on the loan for her vehicle because she was 18 when she got it.
How much did you pay for it?
I believe around $20,000.
So when you had to get a car yourself, you didn't buy a car for $50,000, you bought a car for $20,000.
Correct.
Why is that, Mr. Sarna?
Because Janet went with me when we were looking for the car originally, and so we were driving other new expeditions, whatever, and she liked the same one that I did. And even the salesman said that Janet's whole demeanor came down when she got into this other expedition that we were driving.
You mean, just a second, you mean the car salesman told her that her whole demeanor changed when she got into the expedition?
Correct.
You're some piece of work. Mr. Sarna, you bought this expedition and you were planning to pay for it every single month. And you had enough money for that.
Correct.
And you liked the car.
Correct.
So immediately after she took back the car, you went and bought a car that was less than half of the cost of the car that you bought when she was stuck with the car loan.
Correct.
And you want me to believe that you did that, sir, despite the fact that you could afford to pay for a $50,000 car, you decided to have a $20,000 car.
The reason for that is because of the credit error that I had on my TRW, and that's what was in the process of being corrected, and that's what I have a copy of right here.
Well, so did they correct it?
They did.
Well, if they corrected it, why didn't you buy another expedition?
Because I had to get something right away. Because she took the car, I had no way of going back and forth to work. I didn't have a choice of waiting until this got corrected in 90 days.
Why not?
Because of the fact that I couldn't qualify for a higher-end loan.
That's right. You couldn't qualify for it. A stranger wouldn't give you a $50,000 car, but somebody who went... Instead of using her head, she did. I don't know what you found attractive in him. To be honest with you, Miss Kelly, I really don't. You're an intelligent, attractive woman. Seem to know what she's doing. What you found in this man, I haven't a clue.
I don't know either.
I don't know either. I mean, you really ought to consider yourself very, very fortunate.
I do.
Because at worst, it cost you $24,000.
I could have lost my home.
Could have lost your home. You could have lost your life. You could have been stuck with him for 5 years.
I know.
You could have been part of equitable distribution. You would have had to give him half your home. You know, just think about that.
I know.
Just think about having your wagon hooked to this star for the next 10, 15 years. Miss Kelly, he's a bum. He's a bum, but you have no case because you had a contract with him, and your contract said he was going to make the payments, and ridiculous as it seems, the 2 payments that he was required to make, he made.
Yes, but as soon as I found out all those bills, I wanted him to put that car in his name right away.
Then, just a minute, then you're changing the contract. That's why we're here. This
Well,
is
it was
a
going to
court.
be January anyway. I told him I would give him till January. I told him, I will give you till January. I didn't say right away because I knew that took 60 to 90 days. I agreed. I will wait until January.
Okay.
He was the one that came back and says, no, I need 6 months. I said, why do you need 6 months? He wanted 6 months longer.
That was never discussed, Your Honor.
Yes, it was.
It was after the first of the years when it was talked about, and she was going to leave me without a car. She said, I'll wait till after the first of the year, but you're not going to have the car. I will take possession of the car. She took it that day.
Ms. Kelly, you can't change a contract unilaterally. And your contract with him was, just as I indicated, that he made the payments, he was going to get the car transferred out of your name, the loan into his name, and you were furious when you saw all of these debts.
Because he lied. He committed fraud. What about fraud?
No, he didn't commit fraud. When you pillow talk lies, that's not fraud, Miss Kelly. That's pillow talk.
But I agreed for him to keep the vehicle until January because his lease was up in January. He wanted me to give him an extra 6 months so that he could move out of that place and move someplace with that vehicle that I paid for when I wouldn't even know where he'd be living at.
I never had the option of keeping the vehicle.
This is the promissory note that I had written up. He wanted me to go out 6 months. I agreed to 3. I agreed to go to March. This is the promissory note that I took over there, but he would not sign it because he wanted me to change it another 6 months more.
Just a second. When did you take the car away?
I didn't take the car away till the 21st of November.
Why?
Because he wanted to go visit his mother in Arizona, and I was not going to allow him to take that vehicle out of state without me going in there. So I stayed in this relationship until he went to see his mother, and then we came back. The next day I moved all of his stuff out.
You can't change a contract unilaterally because somebody in pillow talk tells you that they're financially solvent, and it turns out that they're not.
It, though.
I'm speaking, and it turns out that they're not. You're a smart lady. You had your heart operating when your head should have been operating. And quite frankly, I don't understand why a smart lady would sell a car back to a company after the car being used for 60 days at a $24,000 loss. I don't get that. You had no right to take the car from him when you did, and if you sold it at a loss, that's unfortunately your problem. Next time you'll know better. I don't think you're a very nice person, sir. You understand that? I think that you misled her.
I did not, but
I think that you Mr. Sarna, I think that you misled her. And I think that you were a pig. I think that you got her to commit herself to a $50,000 car that you could ill afford to take care of. Ill afford to take care of on a long-term basis, unless you're doing something other than waiting on tables, sir, which is a possibility, but I won't go into that right now. Something that gives you a lot more cash.
No, Your Honor.
Because there are very few people that can afford $900 a month in a car payment and pay for their daughter's college and pay for room and pay for board, and pay for eating, and pay for gas, and make an insurance payment on what you make as a waiter. Goodbye, Mr. Sarna.
Goodbye, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he's a pig, like she said.
I don't agree with what she calling me a pig. I mean, that's not me.
I found out he was a liar when I found all those bills, and I asked him point blank up front, are you in any kind of financial debt? And he said no.
She's very irrational. That's one of the things that separated us.
I was in love with him because we got along great. We had fun together.
One day it was like, we're moving in together to be a family. Next day it was like, you remember, you're a guest in my house.
I found all these bills, so I wanted to know what else was he lying about.
I don't need up and down relationships.
His whole life is a lie.
I didn't ask her. I didn't put a gun to her head to put the loan in her name.
He's known in his family as Tricky Ricky.
Watch who you go out with and make sure someone's on a stable emotional state.
Don't believe everything you hear.
I'm happy with the decision, but I'm not happy about being called a pig by Judge Judy.
I don't understand this.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Compton versus Klein. Step forward.
Michelle Compton is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Jamie Klein, for damaging her car when she backed out of their driveway.
This is the boyfriend.
Yes.
You used to be the roommate of the defendant, is that right?
Yes.
And these two people were roommates while you and your boyfriend were together.
Yes.
Was there anybody else living in the apartment? Or just the two of you?
Just us two.
The two of you?
Yep.
Did you ever live there?
No.
Did you stay there?
Yes, I did.
How frequently?
I would stay probably the whole month, other than 2 or 3 nights. I'd go spend the night at my mom's or my friend's.
So you were there full time?
Yes.
From when to when?
From when Adam told me he got the house with Jamie, and then from the day we left.
Well, give me the dates. I don't know that. I don't have a crystal ball.
September 1st to, I think, March 18th, May 18th, something like that.
So you were there all that time?
Yes.
How did you split the bills?
When moving in, I worked at Meijer. I only made about $105 a week, and I had other bills to pay. And I told Adam that I don't have any money to pay any bills, and that if he does want me to stay with him, he knows that he is paying it, and he said that's fine.
Miss Klein,
Yeah.
how did you split the rent?
Well, we first on the agreement was just me and Adam, and then when he said she was moving in, I even asked her. I said, well, we need to split it. Well, I'm working at Myers right now.
She did not ask me that.
Don't speak.
She said...
Just a minute. Just ask me. You split it 2 ways?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She has a counterclaim that I'll get to in a minute. Okay. It is your claim that Miss Klein damaged your car while backing out of the driveway.
Yep.
And you want her to pay for the damage to your car.
Yes,
That's
I
what
do.
your lawsuit is about, $1,700. Miss Klein says you shouldn't have blocked her car. And that was your habit. So she nicked it a little bit, and she's sorry, right? You can't hit her car.
You're right, but I went up there and asked her 3 times to move her car. She
What
didn't
date
come-
was that?
I do believe it was the 16th of
Of what?
Of March.
So right before you all went your own way.
Yep.
Why didn't you move the car?
She did not ask me to move the car. Adam asked me if I would clean the room while he's at work, so I was in the room cleaning with the music on. And she never entered the room and asked me to move my car.
And I knocked on the door
No, she did
every
not.
time and said, I need to go take kids to school. I need you to move your car. She didn't come out of the room.
Who were you going to take to school?
I have a daycare, so I had to take the kids to school.
So she didn't move the car, so you hit it.
Yep, well, I tried backing out myself, and then I hit it, and then I went upstairs, and I told her about it, and I said, I gotta go take kids to school, so when I come back, I'll give you my insurance. I come back, and she's gone. So then I go back to work. About 20 minutes later, I come back to see if she's there, and the police are there. So she left and came back, and then I gave her all my insurance and all that stuff.
So what happened with the insurance?
I called my dad and asked him. He called the insurance agency, and they said because it was on private property that they will not do anything.
Well, that's not true. That's baloney. Let me see a letter from the insurance company.
I didn't get one, Your Honor.
Well, you should have one, my dear. You can't rely on your dad. Shouldn't have blocked her.
The car was not blocked.
Well, clearly, it was more difficult to get out.
That's not
Yeah,
true. That's not right.
Well, if she hit your car, she of necessity had to hit your car
She
with
did
her
it on
car.
purpose.
Listen to me! When my mouth starts to move, yours doesn't.
Okay.
Nobody with half a brain uses their own car, which might very well be damaged if she hit her car
I have
with
pictures
your
of my
car.
car.
That's just stupid, and she's not stupid. The only thing she was stupid about is letting you live in this apartment for all those months rent-free and splitting the rent because you didn't have a job that paid you enough. You didn't have a job that paid you enough to pay rent, live at home. And if your boyfriend wanted to sleep with you, then he should have paid 2/3 and she paid 1/3. You got it?
Got it.
She doesn't have to pay for you the pleasure that you had to spending the night with her.
She had people spend the night also, Your Honor. It wasn't
We're not
just me
talking
over.
about spending the night. We're talking about...
She would have boys come and stay for months at a time.
Listen to me. We're not talking about spending the night. We're talking about living there. So, what you have to do is you have to call her insurance company. She's already acknowledged she hit your car. She had no right to hit your car, and our insurance company will pay for it. Easy. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. Unpaid rent. You had no agreement with her to pay rent. Forget the rent, okay? Bills. You should have had an agreement. You didn't have an agreement. Damage to and return of value of property. Now I'll hear that. Go.
I have some letters from some witnesses on some of these things.
I don't take letters from... listen to me. I don't take letters from witnesses. That's hearsay.
Okay. What she did couple times, she's hid my keys. So he had to take me to work one morning because my keys just came up missing, even though I put them on the table every day. When they moved out, I cleaned my whole house top to bottom, and I couldn't find them. Moved all my furniture, they're gone. And my contact case, one morning I woke up and I stuck my contact in my eye. It had alcohol in my contact case. So I had to go and order new contacts because my contacts were ruined because they were soaking alcohol. I got the police report on that. And then also, the day that they moved out, I went to the bank, came back, took my class ring and my ring off, put it on a little jewelry box that I have in the closet, and I come back about 2 or 3 hours later and it's gone. Them two are the only ones in the house. And I asked her, she didn't know what I was talking about. Well, my rings were there when I left. I come back and they're gone.
And how many people were in the house while you were gone?
When I left, it was just her and Adam.
Well, how do you know that there weren't other
Because
people?
my
I'm
boyfriend-
speaking. How do you know that there weren't other people in the house moving them out?
Because my boyfriend was there for
So your
about
boyfriend,
half an
just a
hour.
second. So your boyfriend was there.
For just a few minutes after I left.
So your boyfriend was there.
Yeah.
Who was with your boyfriend?
Nobody.
So now we know of 3 people that were in the house when you weren't there, right?
Right.
But your boyfriend was there, maybe with other people. Never works out when 2 people live together and there are boyfriends and girlfriends. You damaged her car. You have to take responsibility for that. You have full insurance on your car, and you've given her your insurance? Fine. You have to use that.
Okay.
She has acknowledged responsibility, hitting your car. It was a stationary vehicle. There's no question of fault. Her insurance company has to pay for it. And if they don't, and you have proof that for some reason they decline coverage, well, you can come back. But before you come to court just to get even a little bit, what you have to do is you have to go through the procedure so that you don't bother the judge. Do you understand? Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Until New Year's when she asked to kiss my boyfriend, which I thought was very inappropriate.
About November when I asked her to start helping pay.
I told her to go away, drink some more.
She's making 10-something an hour. She can afford to help pay us now.
Stay away from my boyfriend.
I never asked her boyfriend to kiss. I went over to my boyfriend's house that night.
Is suing the father of her daughter, James Hampton, for a loan to close escrow on his home. James says Edith gave him the money in an attempt to rekindle their relationship.
Now, this is case number 296 on the calendar in the matter of Allen versus Hampton.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judge Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor, and may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Allen, many years ago, you and Mr. Hampton had a relationship and had a daughter. Is this your daughter?
This is Nicole.
Mr. Hampton was, according to your papers, not in her life for many years. He has had some trouble in his life in the past. You've been to prison.
Yes, ma'am.
But recently, he found your daughter on the internet.
Correct.
And they developed a relationship. According to you, you made a loan to him. He repaid that loan. And then shortly thereafter said he needed an additional loan. And because he had such a good credit history with you, and because he and your daughter were now involved in a father-daughter relationship, you loaned him an additional amount of money, $7,000. Did he make any payments on that $7,000?
He did, Your Honor. He actually made the first payment that was due.
And then he stopped making the payments?
He did.
You want to show me proof where you took the money from?
Yes.
And just for my own information, could you tell me why you put yourself in a financial bind to give him $7,000?
Well, I actually didn't have any cash money to give him. We were becoming friends, and I was in support of my daughter's relationship with him. He came with me with problems, and he had a lot on his plate.
Just 1 second. So you got $7,000. Where did you put this money?
I deposited it in my credit union account.
Let me see it.
May I see that when you finish, Judge? Because that's news to me. I never
That what?
knew that she took out $7,000 to loan to me. That's news to me.
Well, she did. On June 13th, $2,500, and on June 20th, $4,500.
Well, I'm not really sure of the amounts.
Well, tell me what amounts you acknowledge that she gave you, sir.
She gave me $2,000 one time, and she gave me about $3,000 another time, and then I gave her $1,000 for my daughter's deposit for the car. So
I don't care about your deposit for your daughter's car. I'm talking about in June of 2006. You have a cashier's check for the $4,500 that you gave him?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please,
It's
just so we
with
get...
the other papers I gave you.
It's in here?
And I'd like to see a copy of that because I'm not aware of that.
Right here, sir.
Right, ma'am, but it wasn't made out to me, right? She just wrote my name at the bottom. I mean, that doesn't mean that she gave the money to me. That doesn't, right? Is that what that's saying? Is that saying it was made out to me? I don't think I
Paid in
cashed.
the order of James Hampton.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's made out to me. Like I said, she had been giving me money. I'd been giving her money, so I really don't have record of that. But the money was given to me for the simple fact of that I was behind in some of my bills, but she never said I had to repay the money back. What happened was this whole case, why we're here today, is I had just been notified that I had a son that I hadn't seen in 14 years. Hadn't seen my daughter in 14 years. I got tired of being a deadbeat dad and went and took the necessary steps it took to reunite my family. What happened was, at that time when Edith, like you said, why was she doing all these nice things? Edith was kind of, I guess, trying to rekindle the relationship and saying, here, James, here's some money. You don't have to really pay it back if you get the money. And that's cool, but I never really, want somebody to give me something for free. I told her, Edith, I'll pay you back if I come into some money. She said, don't worry about it. I understand that, you're going to therapy with your child. You've got lawyer fees. I understand that, I kind of lied to your daughter about us, about you being alive. I really was incarcerated, but she told my daughter I was dead. My daughter never got in touch with me through years of searching, 3 or 4 years. I finally tracked her down and took responsibility with my son. But what happened was my daughter took my son down, and my son, who got temporary custody, had a lot of problems, had a lot of mental, emotional problems. When she picked up my son, she took my son to Sacramento. I called him up. I said, hey, did you take his medicine? She said, no, her and Edith had been convinced my son didn't need medicine and everything. Well, when I talked to my son on the phone, he was, yeah, Dad, I'm going to beat you up. And he was really disturbed. I said, hey, we need to get that kid his medicine right away. So my daughter, and this is what really gets me, I got 2 adults supposed to have good sense, and my son, who I can't really blame him because he's only 15-year-old. These 2 manipulated my son and tell him, I don't want to come back up to you, Daddy. You make me work too much. And they made allegations. And here's the kicker part, Judge. They take the kid and they take them back to the boys' home, which 9 months going to therapy, visits, picking them up. They go back to the boys' home with my son, who needs his medicine, and they tell the social service that I abused my kid, rush him over to the hospital, have him all checked out. Come to find out, I got the report right here from social service. There was no abuse to the kid, and they said that the police was coming to get me, and I better watch out. I finally told them, hey, I'm like John Gotti. I'm the Teflon Don, because I wasn't worried about the allegations. I wasn't worried about them. You only worry about something when you do it, not when you don't do it. So social service called me up and said, Mr. Hampton, there's no problem with the allegations. They're not true. The problem is your son don't want to come back there, because these people are supposed to, if she don't have to love me no more, but she should have the respect that I am the father of her kid. And I can't believe that how they couldn't say, well, let me sleep on it maybe before we take the kid back. You don't take some kid because you think he did something and take him back to social. Now I have to start all over. I have to go and hire another attorney, and I have to get trust in my son. So this is what this lady's trying to do, manipulate. Only when she found out that I had another girlfriend and the relationship between me and her wouldn't happen again. I move on, Your Honor. Once the lady leaves me, keep it moving. I'll move on to the next one.
Miss Allen, I have a few questions for you.
Yes.
How old are you?
44.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Who do you work for?
Kaiser Permanente.
And how long have you worked for them?
10 years.
Okay. How many times have you been incarcerated?
None.
Never. Right?
Right.
Now, your daughter, Nicole, what does she do?
She's a medical assistant also at Kaiser.
She went to school?
She did.
Graduated?
Yes, she did.
And she's 24?
Correct.
Is she your only child?
No, I have another daughter who lives in Houston, goes to college.
Goes to college?
Right.
Well, Judge, can I say one?
I want to hear nothing. I let you speak. Correct?
Yes.
I let you speak. I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Hampton.
There are upstanding
Listen to me.
I admit.
Listen to me. I'm trying to figure out who's the nut. So I have to find out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Whatever allegations he's making, she didn't put those allegations in his
Why
head.
couldn't
Mr.
she?
Hampton, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Listening ears, sir.
And later today,
The reason why he's saying that he pushed him in the pool because Demetrius was in his way.
And how do you figure that's his mother's fault?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Edith Allen claims the father of her daughter, James Hampton, owes for a loan. James says Edith falsely accused him of child abuse.
Now, how old are you?
47.
And in the last 20 years, how many years have you been in prison?
Well, I haven't been in prison the last 15 years, but...
I thought you said to me that you got your act together in 1995.
Okay, my last conviction was in 91. I got out of prison in 95. So I've been out of prison for 11 years.
Yeah, it's not 15.
Before I committed a crime, it's been 15 years since I committed a crime. I had to do 4 years in prison, ma'am.
Well, that's not what I asked you.
Okay. It's been 11 years since I've been out of prison.
Okay. And prior to 1990, how many times were you in prison?
Your Honor, I mean...
Lots.
Lots of times.
All right, so let me...
People change. People change.
Great. But some people change for the better, and some people don't. So I wanted to find out if Miss Allen had gone downhill in the last 15 years, because let me try to put together in a package what you testified to. You testified that when you got out of jail in 1995, but it took you a lot longer to find your daughter Nicole.
Yes.
Because you didn't get out of jail and say, gee, I want to find out where my daughter Nicole is the second I'm out of jail, and I want to find out where this son is that I allegedly have, immediately. It took you a little time to get your act together, like a decade to get your act together. Well, you finally got your act together. You came into this woman's life. You hadn't been in her life in a quarter of a century, and she wanted to help you. She lent you money. You paid her back. She gave you more money, took out a loan from her credit union to give you more money, helped you with your son, helped you initially. You and your daughter are doing fine. She's even embraced your son, was not her child, and said to her daughter, you can bring him to our house. He's your half-brother. I want you, is that a fair statement, Nicole?
Yes, ma'am.
Want you to be involved with him, want you to, all of a sudden, you want me to believe that she turns on you for no reason. And your son, who is not a baby, we're not talking about a 3-year-old saying that you abused him. We're talking about a child who was 14?
Yes, ma'am.
14 years old saying, listen, whatever it is, I don't want to go back to live with my father. I'd rather go live in the group home where he took me from because of whatever allegations he's making against you. She didn't put those allegations in his head.
Couldn't
Mr. Hampton, listen to me. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Listening ears, sir. I said she didn't put those allegations in your son's head. Now, he may have been hallucinating, but that's not her job. Her job is, if she has this minor in her home who is reporting abuse, she's not supposed to sleep on it. She has to call the authorities and say, this is what the child is reporting to me. You do an investigation. That doesn't relieve you of your debt. You owe her the money. She gave it to you in good faith, and you will repay her in good faith, Mr. Hampton. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think a lot of people, because you've been in trouble before, they think, oh, well, you're still a criminal.
I'm glad justice was served.
But people change, and people should allow people to change.
So far away from telling the truth.
And the lessons I've learned from the past is only going to make me a better citizen and a better person.
He's an abuser. He always has been.
My daughter won't accept that, maybe we can start fresh.
I want to move on with my life.
She's still saying, you haven't been around in my life.
I could care less one way or the other if my father is involved in my life.
Let all that go and let's, build a relationship.
As long as I can continue to have a relationship with my brother, which I do.
I hope me, my son, and my daughter can all be in the same room together, opening up Christmas presents one day, and put all this in the past.
7-year-old loan officer Richard Sinise is suing his former friend, loan officer Melissa Trekkie, for half the commission on a loan.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 273 on the calendar in the matter of Sinise versus Trekkie. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Sinise, the defendant was a friend of yours for several years and a co-worker at a mortgage refinance company.
Yes.
Your lawsuit alleges that you brought in a customer to refinance his mortgage. He was a friend of yours. And then, unfortunately for you, you were violated on a parole violation and you were sent to jail. You asked the defendant if she would like to finish the loan application with the agreement that she would split the commission with you. She agreed. And you were in prison for how long?
6 months.
When you got out of jail, you called her and said, where's my check? And she says, I'm not giving you your half of the check because I did all the work. That's your defense.
Basically. I have a little bit more to say about it.
Well, I hope not much more, madam. Let's see what we can agree upon.
Okay.
How long have you been working at this mortgage finance company?
Approximately a year.
And how much of a commission do you get when you refinance a loan?
It was 60% of all of the total fees that were involved in the loan.
So let's say I want to refinance a $100,000 mortgage. What would your commission be?
I'd probably make about $2,500.
What's your friend's name?
Paul, ma'am.
That's not him, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Very good. Paul, step up, please.
Sure.
Paul, why did you want to refinance this loan?
I was going to invest in some other property I had, and it seemed like the interest rates were right at the time.
So you contacted your friend?
Yeah. I mean, I knew he was in the business. He told me he had just started working there, so.
You thought you'd give him the business?
Absolutely.
When was this?
I would say probably end of October, maybe the beginning of November, we started talking about it.
Of 2005?
Yes, correct.
And did you ultimately refinance your house?
Yes, I did.
Through the company that they worked for?
Yes, that's right.
And how much was the refinance?
I don't remember the exact, but I think it was around $250 something.
Mr. Sinise, how much was it?
The total refinance was $235,000, ma'am.
Is that correct, Ms. Tracky?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what was the commission on that?
I ended up making $4,660. I have to check there. $4,666.51.
That was your entire commission?
Yes.
Now, when you found out that you were being violated, by the way, what were you violated for?
Dirty urine, ma'am.
Not smart. Right?
Right.
When you found out that you were going back to serve the rest of your term, what was your conversation with the defendant?
I had called the defendant that night, and I knew she was in financial hardship, and I could have used the money as well to make my car payments while I was away. So I asked her if she would be willing to finish the loan, and we would split the commission 50-50, and she agreed to that.
Okay. The loan was completed, and you got no money.
Correct.
Okay, Ms. Tracky, now I'm waiting for the explanation.
Okay. When this all happened, he asked me to do the loan. There was nothing done on the loan initially. He had just talked to him and said, okay, I'm going to refinance your house. So
he was the rainmaker.
Excuse me?
You know what that means, rainmaker?
No.
That means he brings in the business. Because without his bringing in the business, there would have been nothing for you to share.
Correct.
So he didn't do anything on the loan but bring in the business.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Initially, the loan amount was supposed to be over $300,000. We went over the paperwork, the disclosures that he had printed out from when he, put the loan together.
When who put the loan together?
In the computer, put the loan together. You just print out paperwork.
So he had done something.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
He put something in a computer.
Yes, he did.
That's more than I could do. Go ahead.
Okay. We had gone over exactly what the loan was going to be like, and like I said, the loan amount was going to be larger because he had stated to me that he knew the value of the property, which was...
All right, I thought it was going to be $300,000. It turned out to be $235,000.
No, it was supposed to be about probably $50,000 more, correct. So, the loan amount. Because he wanted... Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, I asked him where he got that figure from, because that obviously makes...
You got to get to a point.
Okay. So, he made up the value of the property. When I found out the real value, we had to cut the original amount that we were supposed to split. We were supposed to split $9,000. That was the original total fee.
You could have backed out any time. Ms. Tracky, first of all, this loan was completed... Listen to me. Hey, the loan was completed what month and year?
It happened just after January 1st, 2006.
Okay. Since January 1st, 2006, how much money have you made at the company?
Well, I left that company probably a few months later than that. I would say $10,000.
Since January 1st, 2006, how much money have you made?
$50,000.
I hope that the IRS is listening very carefully. How much money have you made since January 2006?
To be honest, I didn't file my last taxes. So.
Ms. Track.
Yes.
If you decided when you got into this loan with Mr. Zemanek that the loan amount was inadequate for you to break a sweat and complete, you had that opportunity, but you had a contract with Mr. Sinise. Your contract with Mr. Sinise was you were going to split the commission. It wasn't I will split the commission with you of $9,000.
That was what our
No, it was not, because that amount fluctuates. You got $4,666.51. Now, do you think that I think that Mr. Sinise said to you, I will split the commission, but if it's $4,666.51, you can keep it all yourself?
No.
No. No.
But when you're dishonest with somebody about the original contract, and I found that out through the process...
Say no, my dear. Say I don't want to do the loan.
Well, he was in jail, so I
I'd say, Mr. Zemanek, I don't want to do your loan. It's not worth my while to do your loan for $4,666.51. I would rather make nothing. I would rather make nothing than make $2,300. It's not worth it to me to make this lowly amount of money, especially when I don't have to share it with the government.
Well, I got an extension. I am filing them.
No, the time to file, madam, is past. Let me explain something to you. It passed October 15th. If you got a 6-month extension, it's over. Finished. They're going to come looking for you. They're going to steal your clothes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,333. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's like that. I definitely didn't backstab my friend because we had been friends since then. He told me to forget about the money until he got mad at me.
She didn't want to do me a favor when I was incapable of doing it myself.
Because I didn't do him a favor and get perfume for his girlfriend.
1 cent just cost her over $2,300.
He's a punk.
Amy Cox and her daughter, 16-year-old Shannon Turnowitz, are suing Shannon's father, Mark Turnowitz, for the insurance money he received from a vehicle she totaled.
Yeah, this is case number 340 on the calendar in the matter of Cox Turnowitz versus Turnowitz. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your last name is Cox, is that right? This is your former husband, this is your daughter, and your daughter.
Yes.
I assume you've been divorced for a while. You have 2 children. Your son lives with you. Your daughter lives with you.
Yes.
Yes.
And I would have assumed before this car incident that everybody got along reasonably well. So, Daddy wanted to do a good deed, and he bought you a present for your 16th birthday.
Yes.
Bought you a car.
Yes.
A new car.
Yes.
That's some good daddy. According to your complaint, Miss Cox, the arrangement was that he would carry the insurance on the car. It was in his name. It can't be in your daughter's name because she's a minor. So he had increased insurance because now he's got another minor on his insurance. The insurance was something like $200 a month.
Yes.
Which your daughter paid.
Yes.
And then you had an accident with the car was totaled.
Yes, ma'am.
Dad got the insurance money for the car. You feel as if that money was yours.
Yes.
And your dad says that the insurance money isn't yours. He bought the car. He wanted to feel as if you acted responsibly in the car, that the accident, as it turned out, was a result of, he believes, your negligence. And he's not buying you another car for a while, and he's not giving you the money for another car so that you can buy it for a while, because he's the daddy, and that's his prerogative. That's your defense.
Yes.
So I'm prepared to hear you, Miss Cox.
Your Honor, prior to this whole incident, we've been best friends. To where I let his family live with us for 6 months while their home was being built. My new husband, they became very close, very good friends. They purchased a house, they sold the house. After they sold the house, they moved out in February of this year, of 2006. They went on a spending spree. They bought 7 vehicles. They bought Shannon a car that they gave her and said it was because Shannon...
No, let Shannon tell me. Your dad gave you a car, and what did he say when he gave you the car?
He said to me that it was because I miss out on the things because I don't live with him that they usually get around the house and stuff. And so he said in place of that he bought me a car. When he gave me the car, he said that there would be 2 stipulations. One, I would have to pay car insurance, and the other one was that when I got my license, that he would put the car in my name.
Well, he can't put the car in your name because you're a minor.
We didn't even know
I didn't
that.
know
Okay.
And so I started paying car insurance when I got my license, and I feel that since the car was mine, it was given to me as a gift, that I should get the money.
And what are you going to do with the money?
Buy a new car.
But not a brand new car.
Tell me about the accident you got into.
I was going down a hill. I moved my foot from the brake to the gas pedal. The gas pedal got stuck between my foot and the sandal.
You were wearing what kind of shoes?
Sandals.
Flip-flops?
Yes.
That's not a good thing to do when you're driving a car.
No, it's not.
Did you know that before you got into the car?
No, because that's usually what I wear, and so...
Well, you know, I found this case to be kind of interesting because there is a certain wisdom in your parent being able to say, listen, I'm uncomfortable. I gave you a car, but you could have been killed. And how am I going to feel as if I gave you the car and then you got killed and it's my fault? Because but for the fact that I gave you this car, you'd be alive. You'd never get over that as a parent. Never. You got it? So we'll come up with a more reasonable solution. I assume that you want to do that, sir, because I assume that you don't want to be estranged from your daughter.
Well, Your Honor, I bought all the kids a car. Yes, I did buy 7 vehicles, but I bought my oldest daughter a car, who is my stepdaughter. She wrecked it. It was in my name. She totaled it. Didn't learn my lesson the first time. We did not buy her a new car. We did not get her another car. Her grandmother and grandfather eventually bought her a car. My son, I bought him a car. His car is now in his name because he's 19, has a job, goes to college full-time. He's doing well. I signed it over to him. He's good to go. We gave Shannon the privilege to drive the brand new car, 07, because Shannon doesn't get the benefits that Nicholas gets at the house every day or other kids get.
You have stepchildren? How many?
1, and she's 20. Then my youngest has a car sitting at home now that he'll be able to drive when he gets his license. What we did was about 2 weeks ago, we offered that car to Shannon to drive. and her mother turned us down and said she will not drive anything unless it's in her name. So,
well, that's a mistake.
I'm pretty much.
No. That's. But Ms. Cox, I'm here trying to put a moral solution in this situation, and I find, your father's position pretty solid. I would have no problem if he said, "Listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the money that I got from the insurance, which is what, $12,000?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to put it in a bank account, your name and my name. When you turn 18, you can take that money and go buy a car."
That's what
Your Honor, that's what we asked.
Just a second, because I made you a gift, but I'm not prepared to, at this stage, give you the privilege of having a car because I don't think you're ready to have a car. And I don't want to destroy my whole life if, God forbid, something else happens. Is that a solution?
No, Your Honor.
Why?
Because I've told all the kids the same exact thing, and she should be no different. You mess it up, you don't do well, you're not responsible, you're done, I'm not going to get you another one.
Okay. The act of irresponsibility that you're talking about was the fact that she was wearing flip-flops in the car. Is that right? That, Mr. Turnowitz, is not such an egregious act, in my judgment, as to vitiate the gift. You see, you made a gift to her.
A privilege.
No, sir. Sorry.
Privilege.
Say, no, sir.
Okay.
Wrong. You made a gift to her. And you set certain conditions. And the conditions were you have to be responsible and pay the insurance. Certainly, if she had wrecked this car while under the influence of alcohol, while she was speeding, while she was out at 4 o'clock in the morning with friends and there was beer in the car, I would say absolutely vitiates the gift because it was a conditional gift. But now you're asking me to judge whether the wearing of sandals, flip-flops in the car is such an egregious violation as to say that she's irresponsible, and I say it is not. I'm on your side. I don't think that you have to replace this car right now, and I don't think that you have to give her the money right now for the car. But I think when you make a gift to a child, and it was not a privilege of driving because that's fancy footwork, and believe me, Mr. Turnowitz, I understand that you have a stepdaughter, and I understand that you made a rule for your stepdaughter, and that you feel as if, well, I can't show any favoritism from one to the other. That comes under the category of too bad.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We're not talking to the wife. We're talking to him. I believe he's a real good guy. Maybe caught between a rock and a hard place when he gets home. That's not my problem.
And later today.
As I'm in the kitchen, my daughter comes out of my bedroom, and I all of a sudden heard the dog screaming, and the boys are silent.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Shannon Turnowitz says her father, Mark Turnowitz, owes for the return of insurance money he collected on a vehicle she totaled. Mark claims Shannon is irresponsible.
Mr. Turnowitz, you made a conditional gift, and the conditions were not broken. She paid the insurance on the car. You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
You do reasonably well in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Get good grades?
3.333.
That's pretty good grades. So, you either have two choices, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
She has no job, Your Honor. She can't pay for the car insurance anymore.
Just a second. I'm not asking you, sir, to get her another car now. That's not what I'm saying to you.
I still have to pay insurance. I cannot drop her off my insurance because she is a minor.
I'm not suggesting to you that you keep her on your insurance.
I have to. Geico will not let me drop her unless I prove that she has her own insurance or she is on somebody else's policy.
Mr. Turnowitz, you're not following me, sir. Just because she turned 16, I've had a lot of children that turned 16. Just because she turned 16, you don't have to be on anybody's insurance as long as you're not driving a car. And you're not giving her the car. I'm not suggesting
but
to you...
But she's allowed to drive, Your Honor. She has a license. She can get in her mother's car and go drive under my insurance.
No. Not under your insurance, under her mother's insurance.
Well, then you have to put her on your insurance.
Just a second. Of course.
Okay.
If you're not getting her a car, mother's got to put her under her insurance, and it's going to be an expensive proposition.
Yes, it will.
Absolutely, because now she's been in an accident where a car's been totaled. You are not responsible for keeping your daughter on any insurance.
Okay.
Finished. So let's try to work this out. Okay. You want to let her drive your car? Fine, but you better put her on your insurance, because otherwise, if something happens, you could lose everything that you own.
Your Honor, when Mark's wife called me and offered me the other car, I told her, I said, there's two problems with this, Denise. First of all, it's a stick. She's terrified to get behind the wheel of a car as it is.
We're not even dealing with that issue anymore.
This goes towards the insurance part. I also told her, I said, Denise, if you take that money and you put it in an account somewhere in Shannon and Mark's name, and when she's 18, she can have that money to purchase her own vehicle, that's fine. I'll take her off your insurance and I'll put her on mine, and she'll drive my husband's truck.
Just a second. That's exactly what I said.
And that's what I told his wife.
Just a second. That's a reasonable solution. And it's a solution that...
Your Honor, her answer to me was that she spent the money.
Just a second. Just a second. We're not talking to the wife. We're talking to him.
That was never brought to me, Your Honor.
We're talking to him. And he's a good guy. Maybe caught between a rock and a hard place when he gets home. That's not my problem. But he looks like a real good guy, and he looks like a guy who loves his children and wants to be a very good father. Doesn't want his children to be angry with him, and especially a child that's got a 3.33 average, who evidently both of you did a terrific job with. So, Mr. Turnowitz, I think that you should take that money and put it in a bank account so that your daughter will have a car when she turns 18. As long as she behaves responsibly and continues to do well, she'll be off to college when she's 18. And you feel as if, well, now you're on your way, just like your son's on his way. Is that a reasonable solution?
Yes, Your Honor.
Done. Thank you.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Shannon and I talked about it, and her final words to her father when he basically told her to go to, excuse my French, was, fine, Dad, I'm going to take you to court.
I honestly don't think it was my daughter. I think it was my ex-wife pushing my daughter to do this.
The friendship is gone.
It depends on what happens. You know, I'm pretty much done with the two of them.
You just said that our relationship was over.
They got through some issues last year, and I'm sure they'll get through this one, too.
Ms. Smith is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Gerald Ware Jr., for half the cost of a cruise, utility bills, and a loan to hire an attorney.
Order. All rise.
That's case number 354 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Ware.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Smith, you and the defendant dated for a period of time and signed a 6-month lease together in August of 2006.
That is correct.
How long had you been dating before you decided to move in with him?
I met him in March, so I was dating under 6 months.
I ask that not because it's particularly relevant, but I'm conducting my own sociological study. I want to see how quickly it is that people make this
mistake.
Right.
Yes.
In any event, your lawsuit says that you moved in August.
Yes, August 5th.
And you moved out in?
September 25th.
Right, so the living together at least saved you a bad marriage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good. It is your claim that Mr. Ware is responsible for half of a cruise that you booked with his consent and his agreement to pay for half of the trip. It was a non-refundable amount of money. It was $2,000, $1,000 for you, $1,000 for him, which, of course, he didn't go on.
Correct.
Because the cruise was scheduled for...
October 7th, excuse me.
Did you take anyone else with you?
No.
So you had the cabin all by yourself?
I sure did.
So let's deal with that first. You moved in August. Things started to go downhill right away. I don't have to know the why. It was not good. You were both not unhappy with the separation. Is that right?
Yes.
You moved out, but you continued to pay the rent. Your half of the rent.
I did.
Does she still continue to pay her half of the rent?
Up until December.
I think she's a princess. And you continued to live there?
Yes, I did.
All by yourself?
And my kids, when I had them for visitation, yes, I did.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So you had a great place to live. Are you still living there?
Until January 6th.
And then what happens?
I received a 30-day notice.
Why?
Because she didn't pay her, as it states in this letter, she didn't pay for December's rent.
Why didn't you pay?
I paid my half.
Why didn't you pay the whole thing?
Because I have a written agreement from her that says that she would pay the half as long as I didn't have a
I'm telling you, she's really been a princess. If she's paid September, October, and November, and she hasn't lived there, and you've lived there with your kids, so how old are you?
Me, 37.
Why don't you take care of your own responsibilities? Where are you going after January? They gave you a 30-day notice. Where do you intend to go?
Oh, I'll find a place. No, none in mind right now.
What do you mean you have none in mind?
Well, I'm looking.
How much rent do you pay?
$675.
Is that the entire rent?
No.
Or just your half?
That's my half.
Okay. When you moved in to that apartment, where had you been living just prior to that?
With my boss, as well as Christina.
With your boss?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a cabinet installer.
And you lived in your boss's house?
Yes, I did. As well as he's a friend as well.
Before you lived with your boss, where did you live?
I lived with my friend, me and a friend named Brian.
And when you lived with Brian, how much rent did you pay?
About $300 a month, because it was just for a room.
How many children do you have?
2.
How much child support do you pay?
I The child support is, my son is not legally mine. I accepted that responsibility when he was born, and after she went after his real father for child support, so they dismissed that court order, and for Bella it's $246, I think it is.
How much child support do you pay?
$246.
He doesn't pay child support.
When was the last time you paid child support, Mr. Ware?
It's been a couple years because my ex-wife put a letter in. She said that when she required me to pay child support, that I didn't see the kids regularly, so she wrote a letter to the district attorneys in Sacramento County.
That's hearsay. I just asked you a simple question. When was the last time you paid child support? You said several years ago.
Yeah.
You just told me that you used your apartment, sir, this apartment that you were living in and having half the rent paid by the plaintiff for both yourself and your children when you had them. So clearly you were seeing your children within the last 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
But you haven't been paying child support.
No.
Is this your boss?
Yes, it is.
How did I know that? Are you paid on the books or off the books?
On the books. I'm 1099.
And how much was your 1099 last year?
I didn't work for him last year.
Yes, he did.
Mr. Ware, he doesn't even want to stand up anymore and get involved with this, sir. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
You just told me you lived with your boss last year before you moved in with her.
Last year.
What's your last name, sir?
McWee, ma'am.
You want to leave now?
No, ma'am.
You might want to rethink that. You get me? Good. So you're paid in cash and you don't pay taxes and you don't pay child support. You're supposed to pay your own rent.
I did. My half.
Well, you didn't pay, no, your own rent. Listen to me, Mr. 37 years old. You live in this country. You work for him. You're supposed to pay taxes like everybody else, which you don't do. You have children, too, or maybe just one. They come to visit you, and yet you have no fiscal responsibility for them. The rest of her lawsuit is, she says, A, she made a small loan to you for a lawyer. I'm not so interested in that, $199. But she said that you had no credit. Well, the reason you have no credit is because you allegedly have no income. So that she put all the utilities in her name. She put all the utilities in her name, left them in her name because she had no credit, and you didn't pay the bill, even when she was paying her half of the rent. Sir?
I was giving her half my check. She went over to my boss's house and received money from them.
You mean after she moved out?
After she moved out?
I'm talking about after she moved out.
After she moved out, I told her she threatened to turn everything off. I told her to go ahead and turn everything off.
Oh, she should have.
So?
And she didn't.
And she didn't.
And did you turn the lights on?
I couldn't.
Listen to me. Did you turn the lights on?
Yes, I did.
Did you turn the stove on?
Yes,
did you
I did.
plug in a coffee maker?
Yes, I did.
So you used the juice. When you use the juice, you have to pay for it. Did you use the telephone?
Yes, I did.
If you use the telephone, you have to pay for it. You know, just like if you're an American citizen and you use the roads and you use the other services that the government provides, you have to pay taxes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The dish bill came to $292.23. I actually put a passcode on there around October when I found out there was adult movies rented on there.
He had to do something to keep himself occupied.
And later today,
he said he was not going to give up on the relationship, and when I told him that he did not have a choice because I was done, he started punching himself in the face.
Show me how he did that.
Christina Smith claims ex-boyfriend Gerald Ware Jr. owes for his share of a cruise vacation, utility bills, and a loan to retain an attorney.
How much were your electric bills and service bills after you moved out? I'm talking about just for him.
Yes, the dish bill came to $292.23. I actually put a passcode on there around October 20th when I found out there was adult movies rented on there.
He had to do something to keep himself occupied. Next.
Sure West bill was $260.14.
Is that it?
Yes, and if you're not going to do the attorney bill.
No. $552, rounding it out, Bird. Thank you. Is that right?
Yes.
No sense. Good. $552. Now, let's talk about the cruise, Mr. Ware. You told her to go ahead and book the cruise?
A cruise was planned before I met her. We had been talking about it amongst friends before she moved in, and her sister is a friend of my boss.
Did you tell her to go ahead and book the cruise?
No, I did not.
That's not what you said here, sir.
My boss's wife booked
That's not what you said here, sir, in your answer. Just because you broke up doesn't mean that you don't pay for half the cruise. You pay for half the cruise. What?
In order to get the cruise, you have to do double occupancy.
Don't speak to me sitting down.
Sorry, ma'am. We told them both prior to this going that if anything happened, that you have to pay double occupancy to get on this cruise in order to get all the cabins together. So I said, if something happens, you can't change it, you can't get the money back, and they were both aware of that.
You made that clear to both of them?
Correct.
Terrific. Thank you. You can sit down.
I gave Gerald every opportunity to go on that cruise.
Listen, it happens. He's got to pay for half the cruise because you're out the money. Do you understand?
No, I don't, but...
Well, it's very, very easy, sir. There's no way that you wanted to go on this cruise, and there's no way that you were going to share a cabin together. Somebody was going to go on the cruise. Now, it is my sense that if you said to her, I will give you the $2,000, I will go on the cruise instead of you, she would have said, great. No. She would have said to you, great. You go on the cruise, and I won't. But right now, she had $2,000 invested in this cruise, and she hadn't seen a penny from you.
Yes, she had, ma'am.
Oh, really? You paid for some?
I was giving her all my checks that I was receiving from him.
Checks?
To pay for...
Listen to me.
Well, cash. To pay for credit card bills that were outstanding when we met.
We're not talking credit card bills, sir. We're talking about the cruise.
That's how the cruise was paid, on credit card.
How much money were you giving her?
I was receiving $500 a week.
In what?
In cash.
I love it when a game plan comes together. Just think of it this way, sir. It's your contribution to taxes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,552.
Judge,
That's all.
I have some jewelry I want to give back to his daughter.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I would never put what I owe and what things I have to pay on her. I never did that.
Be taken advantage of, and he lied throughout the whole relationship.
My monetary situation never affected her.
And I went through a marriage like that, and I'm not going to do it again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Day versus Fenimore, step forward.
Jennifer Day is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Spencer Fenimore, for breaking a lease. Spencer claims there was no lease to break.
Miss Day, you and Mr. Fenimore lived together for a period of time, signed a lease on an apartment, lived together during the course of that lease. The lease was renewed, according to you, for another 6 months, and Mr. Fenimore moved out after a month or so. You want him to be responsible for his half of the remainder of the lease. Mr. Fenimore, while he acknowledges that you signed an initial lease together, his defense is that he did not sign the renewal, that you must have signed for him. You knew that he was intending to leave, that things weren't going well between the two of you, and he is not responsible for the second part of the lease. So can I see the first lease that you signed? When did you move in together?
It was, I believe, December 2004.
Well, the lease was signed November 2005.
I think it was 2004. I'm not real correct on that.
Well, what am I looking at? November 29, 2005. What?
It's probably our renewal lease.
I didn't ask for the renewal. I asked for the original lease.
This isn't the actual lease, but it's part of the first lease that has the 12/8/04 date that Spencer was speaking of.
Can I see it, please? Yeah. Okay. So the original was signed on 12/8/04, and you claim the renewal was signed by him on November 29th, 2005.
That's correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign the renewal?
Yes.
You said in your answer you didn't sign the renewal.
I signed the renewal that went from November 2005 until May 2006. She's suing me from May 2006 to November 2006.
Got it. So who has that renewal?
The one that I handed to you shows that we went in the office and verbally renewed, and I have a letter from the office dated June 1st.
You can't verbally renew. Cannot verbally renew a 6-month lease. That's ridiculous. He says he did not renew the lease. You have no proof that he did renew the lease.
If he didn't want to renew the lease, Your Honor, he shouldn't have stayed there till July.
Because then you can have a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
You can have a month-to-month tenancy and pay every month until the landlord says, listen, I don't want to give you a month-to-month tenancy anymore. You have to leave within 30 days. Then you leave.
Right.
But you can't obligate him. Sorry. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If he wanted to move out, he should have moved out at the end of May instead of staying until July.
The fact of the matter is, this is not a monetary case. This is a case where she's still in love with me. I'm not in love with her. She wants me to stay. I don't want to stay.
He just one night told me he didn't want to see me anymore.
Why would you want to live with someone that doesn't want to live with you?
I was shocked, and it escalated into a huge fight.
Why would you even push the issue? If someone doesn't want to live with you, let them go out diplomatically. Don't try to coerce them into staying.
He stayed a couple of weeks and then left when I was at work.
To thank the good judge for being so rational in this case.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Augusto versus Grady. Step forward.
21-year-old Tiffany Augusto is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Robert Grady, for vet bills incurred after two of his dogs had a fight.
Miss Augusto, Mr. Grady was your boyfriend. He's got a lot of dogs. His dogs fight. And according to your complaint, you extended a loan to him in order to pay for one of the dogs when the dog was injured. You want him to repay this bill.
Yes.
Mr. Grady says that it was not a loan, it was a gift. You wanted to do it for him. He was perfectly prepared when the dog was injured to have the dog killed, right?
Yeah, I was going to have it put down.
Put down is a nice word. Killed is the word.
Well, yeah,
you mean
I was
killed,
gonna have the
right?
dog killed, yeah.
You mean killed. Your choice was to either take care of the dog and have this animal that was your pet, right?
Yes, correct.
Fixed by a doctor. And you would have chosen, because of the cost, to kill it.
Yes.
Okay. You are clearly an animal lover, sir.
Yeah. I have
How many do you have?
Well, right now I have 4 dogs.
How many did you have when you were together?
5.
Tell me what kind of dogs you have.
Pit bulls, and the one that was hurt is a Rottweiler German Shepherd mix.
Do the pit bulls all come from the same litter?
No, they didn't. The pit bulls I acquired from different people. The pit bull that did the attacking was a pit bull I saved off the street. I found him walking down the street. He was almost dead, bleeding. Took him in, took care of him. He got along with the rest of the dogs. One day I got a call that the dogs got into a fight, and I went home, checked on it. The dog was pretty injured bad. We took him to the vet.
Which dog? Which one?
The Rottweiler.
How old was the Rottweiler?
About 4 at the time.
You don't do anything bad with these dogs, like have them fight, do you? They're
No.
just your pets.
Yeah, they're family pets.
Family pets. And you care for them?
Yes.
Then why, sir, when one of your members of your family was injured, why would you even contemplate killing it?
Well, I had no money to save its life. So it was the only other road. I can't go home with the dog with its jaw half ripped off.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Grady. Were you working?
No.
How were you supporting yourself?
I was living at home at the time.
Living at home with whom?
With my mother.
How old are you?
23.
How did you support yourself? How does he support himself? How does he support himself?
His mother.
What else?
At that time, it was me.
While you were together, was Mr. Grady ever arrested for any illegal activity?
Yes.
For what? Look at me.
I was never really told why. He would lie to me most of the time.
Right.
What were you arrested for, Mr. Grady?
I was arrested. I had a drug possession charge.
Right. Pit bulls and drug possession charge. Mr. Grady, do you really think that they keep me here because I'm young and gorgeous?
No,
Mr.
ma'am.
Grady, that was the wrong answer, Mr. Grady. You see, either way, you're in trouble. No, ma'am, would be the wrong answer. Yes, ma'am, would be also the wrong answer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That was never spoken to me, that option.
I'm going to get to it.
That's always been her problem. She don't know when to shut up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tiffany Augusto claims ex-boyfriend Robert Grady owes for vet bills after two of his dogs had a vicious fight.
Okay. What are you working at now, Mr. Grady?
Nowhere.
You're not working now either?
No.
So it's been a long time for you not to be working, Mr. Grady.
Yep.
How many times have you been arrested for drug possession, Mr. Grady?
Twice.
What's the status of those cases, sir?
Oh, they're all done now. Got the fines paid and let go. They're minor
Who
misdemeanors.
paid your fines?
Well, I paid the fines.
From what?
I do a little work on the side here and there with a couple buddies.
Well, that's what I want to know, Mr. Grady.
All right.
What do you do on the side, sir?
Well, my friend has a delivery company that he subcontracts.
What does he deliver?
Electronics from like a Best Buy store. I'd come in there a couple days out of the week, and he would pay me. So that's how I got my fines paid.
You think I should believe him?
The drug possession charges has nothing to do with the dog case.
Yes, it does. It has something to do with the dog case for me, sir. Because if you have money, any money, if you can collect cans, if you can babysit, if you can do anything at age 23, I wouldn't put down and kill a member of my family.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Yes.
Sorry. At that time, that was never spoken to me, that option. We never...
I'm going to get to it.
Okay.
That's always been her problem. She don't know when to shut up.
Neither do I.
Well, neither do I. That's kind of why we conflicted so much.
Listen, I don't care about your conflicting with each other. You want to discuss your conflicting? You take it to Dr. Phil. Here we're going to talk about whether or not you had an option when you went to the vet with your Rottweiler that one of your pit bulls attacked, or more than one of your pit bulls attacked, whether you had an option of saying kill it or heal it, whether you exercised that option, she says you did not, and whether the right thing for you to do would be say, listen, instead of working 2 days a week for my friend who's in the delivery service business, I'll work 5 days a week to take care of my responsibility. You get me?
Yeah, I get you.
How much was the bill?
The total on the account is $1,896.57 because we had to take the other dog in also.
Which other dog?
The other dog that was in the fight.
So there were 2 dogs?
Yes, there's 2 dogs that fought. The Rottweiler attacked the pit bull. Usually, they never attacked each other. They always got along. After that, they had to be separated at all times.
By the way, Mr. Grady, you had 5 dogs at the time you and Miss Augusto were together. You say you had 4. Who's gone?
The pit bull that did the attacking.
And where is that dog now?
He was killed.
When?
About 2 months ago.
Why?
He wasn't getting along with none of my dogs. I couldn't restrain him from getting to the other dogs. I mean, he would basically break down doors to get to the dogs. I had no other option.
He was vicious.
Yes, he started becoming a threat to my family. This wasn't the one that you rescued off the
street?
Yes.
This is the one you rescued off the street?
Yes.
Now, did he pay anything towards this bill?
No.
After you broke up, which was when?
January of '06.
Did you ask him about this bill?
I asked him before that.
And what did he tell you?
I always got promises of payment next week, this weekend. I'm starting to work. I'll give you money steadily soon.
And?
I never got anything.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Go.
She never asked me for no money the whole time we was together. We break up. It was probably about 2 months ago. I started getting phone calls. My mom started getting phone calls. She needs the bills paid. There was never no promise in the beginning to pay nothing back. She loved the dog as much as I did, so she didn't want to see the dog put down as much as I didn't want to see the dog put down. Well, killed.
How many children does your mother have?
I'm one of 7.
Is your mother a working lady?
No.
How did she support 7 children?
Well, she's a widow. She gets checks from my father passing away, Social Security, stuff like that.
So that must have been tough, raising 7 children on Social Security and survivor's benefits.
Yes.
Say that's right?
Yes.
Are you in the middle, the beginning, or the end? Are you the youngest, oldest, or in the middle?
The oldest.
And how old is the youngest?
11.
How would you feel about your mother if she said, you know, all the children need things. I really don't have enough to take care of the youngest one?
Well, I'll do what I gotta do.
Which is what?
Anything that needs to be done.
The youngest one is 11-year-old boy or girl?
Girl.
Girl. You wouldn't suggest we put her down, would you?
No.
You would do anything that was necessary to make sure that she got what she needed?
Yeah.
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Because that's the responsible thing to do.
Yes.
You don't take a living creature into your home, whether it's a human being or a dog, and love it and give it attention, and then say, well, it's too much trouble for me. You know, I don't have enough to go around. This one's expendable.
Well, there's not
you don't
really
do that. What you may have done is responsible with regard to the pit bull, because if the pit bull was an aggressive, hostile dog that had bitten and attacked other dogs, clearly could do that to a person if this dog hadn't done that already. Perhaps under that extreme circumstance, you have to contemplate that. But with regard to an animal that was attacked by a dog that you brought into the house, you do whatever is necessary to make sure that that dog is taken care of. Period. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $18.96. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Stuff just don't work out when there's so much lying going on between.
Lots of lies.
She was out doing what she wasn't supposed to be doing. People would tell me she was here when she was supposed to be there.
When he was supposed to be in New York, he wasn't.
She knows that she was the one doing the cheating. She was out at the nightclub. She was out here. She was out there when she was really supposed to be at home sleeping.
It's over.
She knows what's right and what's wrong.
21-year-old Beth Garcia is suing her boyfriend's ex, 21-year-old Jamie Petola, for keying profanities into the side of her car. Jamie denies the charge.
Your Honor, it's case number 38 on the calendar in the matter of Garcia versus Pitola.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Ms. Garcia, the defendant is your current boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
And also the mother of his child.
Where is your boyfriend today?
He couldn't make it because he's had too many issues with her and pending court problems with her that he has to take care of, so that's why he couldn't make it.
He didn't have any pending court matters today, did he?
None at all.
Hmm?
None at all. He never
None at all.
has.
But he decided to take the high road and just be absent, even though he probably created all of these problems to begin with. Now, when did you last live with, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln?
E. Lincoln.
E. period Lincoln?
Yes.
Well, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
There's no period between the E and the Lincoln. It's just E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln. When did you first live with E. Lincoln?
When was the first I lived with him?
Yeah. First, give me the year.
Probably it was 2001.
And when did you last live with him?
2005.
When in 2005?
Around February, March.
And when did you start to be involved with Mr. Lincoln?
We officially were involved in October.
Of 2006?
2005.
Before a friend.
So there was a little overlapping?
No.
Yes. I was living with him and she knew.
Okay, so there was a little overlapping.
Yeah.
They weren't together.
Yeah.
Hey. There was some overlapping. Now, it is your claim, Ms. Garcia, that the defendant vandalized your car, not on one occasion, but on multiple occasions.
Yes.
And despite the fact that you never saw her vandalize your cars, you have proof by way of admissions that she did, in fact, vandalize your cars. When was the first time your car was vandalized?
On the morning of October 23rd, 2005 was when I noticed it, so it was that night.
Okay. And what was the nature of the vandalism?
She had keyed...
Don't tell me what she did.
She keyed
profane
profane
No,
words.
listen to me.
Shh. Someone keyed profane words on my hood, my driver's door, and the back driver's door, because it's a 4-door, and put key marks on the rest of it, and knocked off the driver's side mirror.
Okay. Do you have photographs of the car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Now, with regard to this incident in October, what proof do you have that the defendant was responsible?
Well, before my involvement with E. Lincoln, I believe he said it was like in 2002.
Don't tell me what he said to you. That's hearsay.
In 2002, his vehicle was vandalized the same exact way.
You cannot tell me anything that he said to you.
Okay.
Because that is hearsay. Do you have any proof that the defendant committed that vandalism on your car?
I have a police recording because on the night of January 3rd, 2006, she was calling my phone saying, I'm going to vandalize your vehicle again. My roommate...
Okay, so you have a recording.
Yes, and the police report that stating that the police...
Let me see it, please.
That he heard the recording.
Where is the recording now?
They couldn't get it through, but we do have it, but it's real fuzzy. But the
She
police
probably messes with the cop. She probably messes with the cop.
No.
She probably talks to the cop.
I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
Car was damaged again when?
The next damage was on March 6, 2006.
Okay. With regard to the March incident, you told the police that it could have been any one of 3 people.
Right. Sorry.
I'm already convinced, madam, that you damaged her car in October. Already convinced based upon the police report. You want to be responsible for March too?
No.
Then keep your mouth shut. You told the police with regard to the March incident that it could have been any of 3 people. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Those 3 people are her friends.
I don't care. You're not responsible for your friends, Ms. Garcia. So you have no proof with regard to March 6th. Is that correct?
That's correct, but then there was another one.
When?
April 10th. And that one, both the taillights were broken off and both the side mirrors were broken off.
Did you have any conversation with the defendant about what happened to your car?
After the January 3rd conversation was the only conversation.
Okay. You want to explain yourself, madam, with regard to the October 23rd, 2005? You want to explain yourself to me?
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Then why, madam, when the police got you on the phone, which they did,
Why isn't there?
She probably talks to
Just
her
a second. Would you get her out of here? Thank you. Get her out of here. Why did you hang up the phone when a policeman identified himself on the phone?
Because when a person says the police are on the phone, you don't know if you could go to jail for something stupid or not. She played on my phone up until she called the cops on purpose, and then that's when I called back and was arguing with her because she told my son when he stayed at her house with my ex-boyfriend that she don't like me and all this other type of stuff. So I called her and was, arguing with her or whatever. And then she was like, you did this to my car or whatever. She had the police right there. So he probably was hanging out at her house because she talks to a lot of people and she goes downtown and she talks to cops and stuff. So he probably was sitting right there maybe. Maybe that's the case. I'm serious.
Let me see the estimate for the damage to your car on October 23rd, 2005.
The October
Police
23rd.
Officers indicated that they heard the recording. Your recording.
I didn't get no police report.
I don't care whether you got it or not. I got it.
They didn't say nothing to me.
Listen to me. I got it. I'm speaking. You don't have to help me.
She don't really know who did it, nothing to her car. It's so many people. She sleeps around with people she don't know.
Listen, Miss Attitude. You were annoyed with her because she was bad-mouthing you to your... I'm speaking. This is what you just told me. You're shaking your head no.
No.
You're shaking your head no. You just told me you were angry with her because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That's why you were yelling at her on the phone.
Right.
Because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That was the conversation that you said was overheard by the police officer.
Right. Then
that was... Listen to me. That was after her car was vandalized in October.
Why didn't I call her before and argue with her if I messed up her car or somebody else was messing up her car? Just because I called and argued with her, that don't got nothing to do with me.
Garcia played officers a message on her cell phone left today by Jamie stating, amongst other things, that she was going to damage her vehicle once again, according to the officer now implicating herself in the previous incident. Ryder was present when Jamie then called back Garcia and heard her repeatedly use profanity when she was addressing Garcia. Ryder attempted to speak with Jamie, however, she hung up on the phone when the Ryder identified himself as a police officer.
Right, I hung up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You also said to her that you were going to damage her car again.
I did not say that.
So the police are lying?
Yeah.
And later today...
If your foot got stuck between the gas and the brake, it's your fault.
I was wearing my work boots at the time, which are larger than normal size shoes.
You made babies with him.
Beth Garcia claims her boyfriend's ex, Jamie Petola, vandalized her car by keying it.
She or her friends probably did the damage to your car. Unfortunately, you can't prove it, but you can certainly, you've established to my satisfaction, based on the fact that she was angry with you, based upon the fact that she knows that E. Lincoln was two-timing her. You may or may not have known it, but she knew it.
Yes.
October 23rd, 2005. Was that on or about the same time that you had this discussion with your son?
No, it just was recently the first time I called her, the time that she taped me.
That was not the first conversation for us. I had to have my phone cut off.
No, that wasn't just recently, madam. It wasn't just recently. That was 4 months ago.
I know. That was the last time I talked to her.
How did you get her phone number?
She called my phone playing on it with her phone number. That's how I got it.
So what did you call her back for?
Because she was arguing and playing on my phone, so I called her back to see who it was, and I cussed her out for playing on my phone.
You also said to her that you were going to damage her car again.
I did not say that.
So the police are lying?
Yeah.
The police are lying?
No, I don't think the police are lying. I think maybe it's one of her friends or something.
Police were lying?
No, I'm not going to say the police were lying, but...
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,619. That's all. Stay away from her car.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was supposed to be her witness. Why ain't he here?
Jealousy, because she wants him back.
If that's her boyfriend, if that's, what happened, he knows somebody else did it too.
But he doesn't want her back.
She has a whole bunch of enemies she gets around.
He can't stand to see that he's with someone else and doesn't want her back at all.
I've been moved on. I have a boyfriend. She can have him.
Simple-minded and psychotic.
Yeah, it's done and over.
She needs to get a life.
Corey and Tammy Shanks are suing Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, for damaging his truck when she ran into a mailbox.
All rise.
That's case number 44 on the calendar in the matter of Shanks versus Blankenship. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it. Is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox. There was some minor damage. She told you about it. And at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned. And she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to clear the vacancy.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well...
You were together?
Yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was if she did move in, she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, when it to a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it, you know? I mean,
Getting ready to leave what?
in the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures of the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So why are you here? He ruined her life.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
And later today.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
I wasn't there when he slapped my daughter's mouth. As far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Oh, you get it? Did I have to explain that to you?
No.
So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's his fault. Probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He got back with his wife. Tammy was mad because he got with me. We share a life together. She didn't like the fact that I had permission to have the truck, something that she could never ever have.
Case 2053, Johnson versus Blue. All parties, please come forward.
Rochelle Johnson is suing her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, for unpaid rent and window blinds.
Miss Johnson, the defendant is your brother.
That is correct.
And his co-defendant, your brother's wife. You had a home that was located in what state?
California.
Several years ago, you decided to move out of state, I think to Arizona?
Yes.
And at that time, you discussed with your brother and his wife renting your home. You entered into a lease with them. Was it a 2-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a written lease?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
That's a 2-year, and I also have a 6-month.
No,
want the 6. Okay.
Just the first lease first, because I'm old and I can only absorb a certain amount of facts at one time. It's a pretty straightforward lease. It's a lease for 24 months, starting the 1st of July, 2019, and terminating on July 1st, 2021. $1,600 a month rent, there's a small security deposit, and all the other terms and conditions are rather standard. Your complaint says that when you went to the state of Arizona, ultimately you ascertained that your health coverage, your lifetime health coverage, was not covered in the state of Arizona. You decided you wanted to move back to California. You don't even have to give a reason why you want to move back to California. You can move back to California into your house on July 1st, 2021. You understand that?
Yes.
Great. And you came back to California on what date?
I don't recall the exact date, but I also extended a 6-month.
I understand. When did you come back to California? In March. That's what you said here. I think in March.
Okay, right now I don't recall.
I think in March of 2022 is when you ultimately came back because they vacated sometime the beginning of March.
No. I came back prior to that. I stayed with my son for a year until
the lease was up?
Yes, ma'am.
Your son lives in California?
Yes, Beaumont, California.
Now, I'd like to see the extension of the lease for 6 months. Okay, so you acknowledge, Mr. and Mrs. Blue, that the 6-month extension that you both signed terminated on December 31st.
Yes.
Did you vacate the house on December 31st?
No, we hadn't found a place yet.
That's not her problem. That would be your problem. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st? On what date, sir, did you close on that property?
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago.
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in.
Rochelle Johnson claims her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, owe for unpaid rent and window blinds. Monique and Antonio are countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Okay. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st?
No.
So you stayed beyond December 31st. Were you there in January?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes. Were you there in February?
Yes.
Were you there on March 1st?
Yes.
On March 2nd?
Yes.
On March 3rd?
Yes.
On what day in March did you move out?
March 5th.
Did you pay rent in the month of January?
No.
February?
No.
March?
No.
Okay, that's what she's suing for.
Right.
Well, you have a defense for not paying rent for those 3 months, which you clearly occupied her premises. Who wants to tell me why you didn't pay rent?
She told us in the beginning we were supposed to buy the house. We did numerous renovations to our house. We cleaned it up. And when we first moved in July 1st, it wasn't move-in ready.
I don't care. You lived there. Not only did you live there, you executed a second lease for another 6 months. You lived there from the beginning of the lease up until March 5th, which is 3 months beyond when you were supposed to be there. I'm waiting for a defense and not paying rent.
Yes. For July 2019, when we first moved in, the house was hideous. She had stuff in every room. We weren't able to move our stuff in.
Did you live there?
Yes, we had nowhere else to go.
I don't care. You had a choice. If the house wasn't in move-in condition, you break your lease, but you don't say at the end of the lease, by the way, when we were there 2.5 years ago, the house wasn't ready for us to move in. It wasn't in condition that we liked. We lived there anyway. So that's not an excuse for not paying rent at the other end. Anything else?
Yeah. She offered to give us the last month rent that we were there for free.
The last month?
The last month rent. I have the papers.
Well, I'd like to take a look at that, but you owe 3 months.
3 months? We moved off March 5th.
I don't care. You were there March 1st. That's the month.
Okay.
Did you indicate to them that you would give them a month off the rent? Okay.
No, ma'am.
She says that you did. I'd
like
like
to see
it.
your evidence as well.
No, just shh. No, she agreed to waive the final month's rent for the period of April 1st, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. You were gone in March.
Right.
And your lease, for some reason, she agreed to waive rent for a month that you weren't there. She didn't waive January, February, or March. She agreed to waive it April 1, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. That's no evidence that she waived any rent.
We moved out in March 5th. Why do we still owe her for March?
Because you were there in March.
Okay.
If she was using the premises as a rental premises and you were leaving at the end of February, then she would have been able to rent her premises beginning March 1st. You don't move out until March 5th. The beginning of March. That means she needs a couple of days, or any landlord would need a couple of days to put the place in order and re-rent it. They wouldn't be able to re-rent until April. So you were there. Is there any reason you stayed until March 5th instead of... Just a second. You didn't let me finish the question. Is there any reason why you didn't move out the last day in February and instead stayed into March?
Because our house wasn't ready yet.
What do you mean it wasn't ready?
We wasn't ready to move in there yet.
What was wrong with it? Where did you move?
Victorville, California.
Okay. To what kind of property?
We bought a house.
Okay. When did you buy the house? What month?
We did close January something.
So you bought the house in January. Mm-hmm. When you inspected the house that you bought, did you buy it furnished or unfurnished?
Unfurnished.
Did you have furniture in the plaintiff's house?
Yes.
You'll give her the address so she can check.
Yes.
Great. Sarah, just look it up for me, please. On what date did you close on that property?
February?
No, don't.
February.
On what date, sir, did you close on that property? It's probably in the record.
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago. Is there an address?
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
2/7. So the house became yours on February 7th. That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in, to get it ready.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
All right. Fine. So you owe her 3 months' rent at $1,600 a month.
What about the renovations we did to our house?
Who cares? I live in a place for a couple of years, and I make changes to the place that I find make it more comfortable. There's nothing in this lease agreement that says that she has to reimburse you for things that she did, and this is not a rent-to-buy agreement. This is a straight tenancy agreement.
We were supposed to buy her house.
There are agreements that are rent-to-buy that list what the rental is and what the ultimate purchase price will be, and whether or not you can deduct the rent that you've paid or a percentage of it from the total purchase price, or whether you cannot. This is a straight rental agreement. So if you made improvements in the house, if you painted it, if you put in new carpeting to make it more comfortable for yourself, you don't get reimbursed for that because there's nothing in your lease that requires her to reimburse you for any improvements that you make in the house. You're bound by the four corners of the contract that you signed.
Well, what about how the conditions that we moved in?
Well,
that she doesn't.
Yes. By living there for 2.5 years, without, I assume, unless you can show me, without, I assume, a written complaint to her. Do you have that? Do you have a written complaint? No. I asked you, sir.
I have pictures.
$4,800. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you. You count the claims dismissed. It's ridiculous.
My mother's deceased, and it would actually hurt my mother to see us in court today. And that's my only regret, that I had to do that.
We're done.
The bottom line is, I am back in my house.
So I had a thought about that case because going through college, I think the first time I saw a lease was my sophomore year or so when I moved off campus. And my dad, luckily enough, was there to help me look over it and sort of teach me what a lease was, what the different sections meant, what I should really be looking out for. So in my mind, it would make sense for colleges to offer a basic life skills course to teach young incoming freshmen how to read a lease, how to negotiate on your behalf.
Did they offer that class at all to undergraduates?
It seems specified to business students or closed off to certain majors. Just to have some guidance would have been, I think, really helpful.
I think
Case 2073, Joseph versus Williams. All parties, please step forward.
Donnell Joseph is suing his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, for personal property.
Mr. Joseph, these two ladies are your half-sisters?
My half-sister and her daughter, my niece.
So, what's your first name?
Martha Williams.
Martha is your half-sister.
Yes.
And your first name?
Tina.
Tina is your niece.
Yes.
And you and Martha had the same mother.
Yes.
Your mother had a house. The house was in her name. Your mother passed away in the early 70s.
Yes.
At that time, she was married to your father, not your father, correct? No. And your father lived in the house until he died.
Yes.
And he died in what year?
2018.
Somehow the house, which had been in your mother's name, never went through a probate process. So as far as the law was concerned, the house remained in her name. It never went to her surviving spouse or her children when she passed away in the early 70s. What I'm reading is when your father passed away in 2018, the house sort of remained vacant for a while. For how long?
Since he passed away.
So nobody's lived there?
Correct.
And you knew your father passed away, I assume?
Yes.
And you knew your mother passed away?
Yes.
And after your mother passed away, she passed away in 1971 or 1972? Did you ever visit with your father in that house?
I visited with my father. I lived in the house.
From when to when?
Well, I lived in the house 1963 until like 72, and I started moving out. But I would still go back to the house because it's my family home.
I want to know the last time, Mr. Joseph, you lived in the house.
1993.
So, almost 30 years ago. And where have you been the last 30 years?
I've been in New York. I've been incarcerated.
You've been incarcerated from when to when?
93 to 2012.
So 1993 is when you last lived in the house?
Correct.
But you were released from prison in 2012?
Yes.
So for the last 10 years, you have not been back to the house?
I've been back to the house, but not living there as a resident.
Okay. So for 10 years.
Right.
As an adult, how old are you?
I'm 64.
As an adult, from age 54 to 64, you had access to the house, visited your father in the house.
Right.
Not before then.
Right.
Okay. And you haven't lived there full-time in decades.
Correct.
This is what your lawsuit wants. You had 10 years after you were released from prison to go and get these treasures, and you didn't do it.
Because my father's house was like the treasure of all his children's property. As long as he has...
As long as he had a bicycle or a Boy Scout book. Let's start being real.
Okay.
Donnell Joseph claims his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, threw away his personal belongings. Tina and Martha are countersuing for the cost of a cleaning crew.
Your lawsuit is seeking $10,000.
Yes.
Because, according to you, the defendants disposed of your property that was invaluable. And I'm going to describe the property that you say was invaluable. A 1911 Boy Scout handbook.
Yes.
That you treasure.
Yes.
You should have taken it out of the house in 30 years if you treasured it. A mountain bike purchased in what year?
Was it 71 or 72, around there? I know it was a 3-speed, 10-speed I got. That was in 1970 in the Univega.
You wanted it, this 50-year-old mountain bike? You should have taken it over the last 10 years. A vintage reel-to-reel tape player.
Yes.
You know how many of those I threw in the trash? Do you have any idea how many of those I threw in the trash? You got those a half a century ago. Oh my God, I remember them, big reels, and how excited we were. You could talk into a microphone, and then you could hear your voice come back, and then all of a sudden you got a phone. You could do that, the same thing. So everybody took these things, and they couldn't find enough places to dispose of them. It's not vintage anything. It's a piece of trash.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
About what?
Okay, the reel-to-reel tapes, right? Some of the tapes had speakings of my brother and Martha's daughter.
Then you should have taken them with you. In 40 years, if they were treasures of yours, sir, and you're 64 years old, I would want those treasures around me. And you had 10 years after you were released from prison to go and get these treasures. And you didn't do it. You just left them in your father's house.
Because my father's house was like the treasure of all his children's property. Okay. This is how we connected to our father, because everybody has left, everybody has died. So as long as he has...
As long as he had a bicycle? As long as he had a bicycle or a Boy Scout book?
The Boy Scout book was handed down to me from my father's.
Let's start being real.
Okay.
Okay, let's start being real.
Okay.
And the first draft of my published manuscript.
Yes.
Why didn't you take that with you?
For safekeeping, I let my father hold it because
Well, that's not a good idea, sir. How old was your father when he passed away?
Oh, he was 88, but my father's mind was sharp as a tack. He kept everything.
If you wanted it, your father passed in 2018, is that what you're telling me?
I couldn't get nothing out of the house, so...
I don't know whether you could or whether you couldn't. When did you make just a second. When did you make an effort to remove your forget about the bike, forget about reel-to-reel tape recorder, forget about the nonsense. Your manuscript. When did you write this manuscript?
I wrote it over a couple of years. It's the first draft of this book.
It's the first draft of that book?
This book.
Well, now you have the book.
But I needed to draft it because the other draft I'm working on the second book that goes along with this book, I don't have certain notes and things that I had.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, it doesn't.
It doesn't exist anymore. Okay. And if you wanted it, you should have gotten it. In 2018, when your father died, you were out of prison. Where were you living?
I was living in New York.
And where did your father live?
He lived in Los Angeles.
Between 2012 and 2018, how many trips did you make to visit with your father?
About 3.
And when did you publish that book?
2015.
So you published that book during your father's lifetime?
Yes.
And if you needed the manuscript, you came to visit your father. A manuscript, it's this big. That's how big a manuscript is.
Yes.
Where were you living in New York?
In Albany.
You have your own apartment or your own home?
House.
Do you own or rent?
Own.
When did you purchase it?
My wife, we bought it together. It was in 2009.
So you're married?
Yes.
Have children?
No.
So you and your wife purchased a house in 2009. How much did you pay for the house?
$109,000.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
So you had plenty of room in the house. You had plenty of room for a manuscript, tapes, a manuscript that you were working on. You weren't working on the manuscript long distance. What I'm telling you, Mr. Joseph, is the things that you're suing for are nonsense.
Okay.
If things that you wanted, that a grown-up man, 64 years old, gets if he wants them, it's not that you're homeless, you have a home that you purchased. You went to visit your father 3 times, anything of value. We're not talking about furniture and antiques and a grandfather clock. We're talking about things that can fit in a tissue box. Yes. You put them in your suitcase and take them with you if they're valuable.
I couldn't visit California before that because of the conditions of my parole. So the times that I could go, I can go out there, and I had to have...
You told me you went out there 3 times.
Yes.
When your father was alive.
When I had permission to go. So I couldn't, after my father passed away, I couldn't go in the house because that would violate the probate thing. So I had permission to go into the house.
You're not understanding me, Mr. Joseph. You're not understanding me. You went there 3 times after you were out of prison, after you had a home, after you were married. When you went there with a suitcase, don't tell me violating your parole unless you told me that. And in the suitcase should have been when you returned from California to New York, small things of value that you say were invaluable to you, including a manuscript. Forget the bicycle. Forget the tape-to-tape reel recorder. The tapes that you say were precious to you, if they belong to you, put them in a suitcase. So there's a lot more about this that I don't quite understand. There's a lot about this that I don't quite understand. When your father passed away, who got the house?
The house is...
Your father passed away, what happened to the house?
The house is still in probate.
Oh,
So
okay.
during the probate thing, I had to have permission to take anything out of the house.
Forget, I'm telling you, I've answered your lawsuit, sir.
Okay.
I've answered your lawsuit.
Thank you.
That you're a 64-year-old man, and if something that could fit in a tissue box was that precious to you when you visited your father and you had a home, you would have taken it with you when you left.
Certain things I couldn't take.
This is not a tea dance.
The property has lost this, but I lost a sister in this process.
He said he was.
And it makes no difference of how this goes. I lost a sister.
This isn't the probate court. So I would suggest that you all take a deep breath and say, whatever it is, let it be finished.
Donnell Joseph claims his niece, Tina Williams, and his sister, Martha Williams, threw away his personal belongings. Tina and Martha are countersuing for the cost of a cleaning crew.
I asked you if the house is still in probate, which is unfortunate because people didn't take care of the business. Who are the beneficiaries of the sale of the house?
Me, my sister LaWanda, my half-brother Justin Joseph, my sister Sherry's 2 sons.
Okay, let's try to clarify this. Are you the executor of the will?
There's no will. My mom's the administrator of the probate.
And I just got to be administrator. We had to go back and forth to court. We had no way of getting in and out of the house because we had no keys.
Okay. And your father, I assume, had no will?
He had no will.
What's the value of the house?
Well, we don't know because since Martha became the administrator,
Just a second, what's the address of the house?
My mom had the house appraised at $250,000.
She's going to tell me.
So the off-market says it's approximating $464,000. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, 858 square feet.
And the estimate?
The range is between 400 and 515.
Ooh, well, the family has a valuable asset that has yet to be divided after all this time. It's a good lesson for everybody out there. Make a will. Now you can tell me.
Thank you. My grandma, which is their mother, she bought the house on her own with my mom's last name, which is her dad's statement. It's her maiden name, who she was married to. We don't know if they were married. That's what we're going through in probate. It's a process. But the beneficiaries would be Donnell, my mom, and 2 heirs of a deceased sibling. Donnell has also been in jail for most of my life. He hasn't been to California at all. So I wanted to back that up as well.
Well, he's not entitled to anything. Okay. If he wanted these items that were valuable to him, he should have taken them during his 64 years.
The most safest place that I had in the world for my valuables to be held was my father.
If you own a home in New York with your wife and you had an opportunity to take these valuable things because you said you visited with your father after 2009, then you should have taken them. And don't tell me it was the safest place because...
Not only the safest thing, but my father... He lost 2 sons. The only thing that he had in his house is the things that was left over from his children. And to take anything that was of value away from his children would have hurt my father. So the safest place for all our property.
Mr. Joseph, you don't think you're going to prison hurt your father?
Yes.
Okay. Let's
get
real. Okay. You're not getting any money here.
Okay.
You're going to wait for probate. And in the probate procedure, which hopefully won't take forever, but it clearly can because people are irresponsible and don't create a will, it is likely that you will have part of the proceeds of this house. Likely. Only because if your mother passed away and if she was in fact married to your father or lived with him at that time in California, if there was a common law relationship and they did have children together, then you as a offspring would be entitled, if there was no will, to part of the proceeds of this house.
Yes. When she bought the house, she bought it as a married woman. So once she didn't buy it as a single property.
That's something, Mr. Joseph, you don't have to convince me of. You have to convince the probate judge
Okay.
You also have a counterclaim that's ridiculous, and I'm not entertaining it. It's really just stupid. Stay with probate. When is the probate proceeding supposed to be finished?
Well, we're going through mandatory settlement.
One thing I want to say, Your Honor, however this probate is, I wanted to, the property is lost of this, but I lost a sister in this process.
He said he was.
And it makes no difference of how this go. I lost a sister. My niece, she's something else, but I love my sister.
This isn't the probate court, Mr.
I love
Joseph.
my sister.
This is not the probate court, Mr. Joseph. And I suggest that if you love your sister...
She know I love her.
Just a second. If you love your sister, and you're 64 years old...
to me.
And you're 64...
When you know I love you.
Shh. Mr. Joseph. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
I know you can get emotional in situations where family is involved, and your sister clearly is sick because she's using oxygen.
Well, I just had liver surgery.
Mr. Joseph, what I'm telling you is, if you have an opportunity in the probate court, I'm actually telling this to both you and Miss Williams, if you have an opportunity at your age and your stage to settle something that gives each of you something, maybe less than you would get if somebody was disinherited, but at this stage in life, at 64 years old, somebody who just had liver surgery and someone who must rely on oxygen in order to breathe, my common sense tells me that what you do is not to give the whole thing away to lawyers who are there sucking up whatever profits there are going to be in this house. Because if the house is worth $200,000, you're going to get a bill for $140,000 for the probate administrator, for the lawyers, and you're going to wind up with zippity-doo-dah. So I would suggest that you all take a deep breath and say, whatever it is, let it be finished. You have no case, Mr. Joseph. Rely on the probate system. I wish you good luck. I said your countersuit's ridiculous. And
I have proof.
I want to tell you something. Your countersuit for having to rehire somebody to move is ridiculous. I'm telling you, rely on the probate court. We are done here.
Would you please let me present my countersuit?
No, I read it. I'm dismissing it on its face. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
All I can say is I love my sister.
Just the same thing that's happening, nothing.
Whether it's a probate thing or not, that ain't gonna never change.
I don't want to hear anything else.
I'm always loving because that's my sister.
Let the probate court decide it.
You know, at 25, after doing season 1 of this show, I created and executed a will because this is a situation we've seen far too many times, and it's so unfortunate to see the breakdown of a family over something that could have been prevented had the mother, father, grandfather, grandmother created a will when they were alive to tell the rest of us how they'd prefer their property to be disposed of.
It's fascinating to me that their mother is gone for 50 years. And for 50 years, that title to that house, which is
Never got flagged, never was...
Nobody ever thought about it.
Yeah.
And the father lived there for 40 years.
Must have at least paid the taxes and maintenance
because
on it.
Absolutely. And then he's gone, and everybody is in this awful state of limbo. And you know what it is with all those siblings and half-siblings and grandchildren and whatever. Even if the house, she says she had it appraised for $250,000. You looked it up and
it was much more, but it's hard to tell.
$400,000. But even if it is, and it has to be divided with 6 people, that's a substantial chunk of money. But it doesn't look like for either one of them it's life-altering money. He lives in a home. He has a wife. He looks as if he's okay since he's been released from prison. But he has health issues. His sister has health issues. And they're going to spend the last years of the...
Stressed, worried about this probate.
Angry. I mean, I saw how emotional Mr. Joseph got. I love my sister. Well, if you love your sister, then you don't sue her.
Yeah.
I don't understand it anyway. Your advice is solid and sound, and I support it.
Case number 2039, Mormon versus Strauss. All parties, please step forward.
Derek Mormon is suing his former friend, Sherry Strauss, for car repairs and harassment.
Mr. Mormon, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
A casual friend, a romantic friend?
Maybe both, a casual romantic friend.
How long do you know her?
14 years at least, probably closer to 15, yeah.
Were you ever together as a couple?
No, ma'am.
And it is your claim that because she was in financial trouble, you extended a loan to her to fix her car.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this case is about. You also say she harassed you, but most of this case is about the loans to fix her car. Ms. Strauss says that you did, in fact, work on her car, but you caused more damage to it than it originally had, and she is counterclaiming for car repairs that she has to make because of work that you did on the car. Who is this person?
My fiance.
Okay, he's not a mechanic.
No.
And who is the woman?
She is the property manager of the motel that I'm living in.
So you don't have a mechanic to testify today to anything?
No, I do have...
The answer is no.
No, but I do have an estimate.
I don't care about an estimate. Okay, so I would like you to tell me, Ms. Strauss, when did you start to have trouble with your car?
March 2nd of 2022.
And where were you living at the time?
I had just moved into the motel.
Had you been spending any time with Mr. Mormon?
Previous to that, no.
Previous to March of 2022?
That's correct.
After March of 2022, did you spend any time with Mr. Mormon?
I did, yes.
Did you stay at his home?
I went there occasionally, yes.
No, but I'm asking you, did you stay over at his home?
Yes.
Okay. And when you started to have trouble with the car in March, when you hadn't been staying at Mr. Mormon's house, did you call him and let him know you were having trouble with your car?
I did as a friend, yes.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I just told him I dropped my son off at his taekwondo, and we were trying to leave, and my car was not working.
And what did he say to you?
That he will come and help me.
And help you?
Yeah.
That was on March 2nd?
That was on March 2nd, yes.
And did he come to the motel where you were staying?
No, he did not.
Well, how did he come and help you with the car?
Because my car was at my son's taekwondo, so he went there.
He came to where you were? And did he take your car someplace?
Not on that day, no.
What did he do on that day?
On that day, he took me and my son home.
So that was March 2nd. Keep going. March 2nd, March 3rd.
And then on March 3rd, we ended up having my car taken over to O'Reilly's. Well, we got a battery.
How much was it?
It was $167.
Who paid for it?
I did.
So then you were driving it again? It's not, yes.
Correct.
Okay. And when was the next time there was difficulty with the car?
Then the next time was March 7th. It died again.
So on March 7th, the car died again? And what did you do?
Then on March 7th, I called him and told him that something's wrong with my car again. Now it's not starting again.
Okay. And tell me why you called him.
Because as a good friend, like I said, we've been friends for 15 years. As it is, I don't ask anybody for help. I usually try to do everything on my own. But,
okay, so you called him and said the car died again?
Yep, but he had made it known that he was knowledgeable about cars, so I figured that maybe he would know what was going on.
You know who else is knowledgeable? Mechanics. You want to tell me what the additional harassment is?
He showed up at my motel threatening.
What did he want?
When I had talked to him before, when he thought that David and I was not together anymore, he said, "Oh, it's not about the money." He goes, "I just want you."
Derek Mormon says his former friend Sherry Strauss owes for car repairs. Sherry is countersuing, claiming Derek damaged her car, trying to fix it.
Okay, so on the 7th, you called him again and said, "I'm having trouble." What did he do?
Then on the 7th, I had to go to work, so I had another friend take me to work. He came and picked me up from work, and we took my car back over to O'Reilly's, took the battery out, had them test it. The battery had been drained. Figured it was the alternator, got the alternator. He put the alternator in.
Who paid for all of these repairs? That's what it's about.
I paid for them.
So what is he suing for?
Because later on, my brakes and rotors went out and I got a flat tire. So at that time, yes, I did call him and let him know.
On what date was that?
That was on April 16th of 2022.
Okay. Well, right now it's gone on the fritz on the 2nd, the 7th, and April 16th. So that's a lot of aggravation. So on April 16th fiasco with the car and the repairs, how much was that?
$234.
Who paid for that?
He said that he would pay for it. He originally told me that his mechanic would allow me to make payments. And when we went to go pick it up on April 22nd, found out that that was not the case.
Okay, so he wasn't going to allow you to make payments,
No.
which mechanics usually don't. So how much was the bill?
So the bill was $567.91.
And he paid for that because they wouldn't let you make payments?
He paid for that because he knew I was...
No, not he knew. You were originally going to pay for that and make payments
Yeah, I was Just to make payments.
You were originally going to pay for it and make payments.
Mhm.
You found out that you couldn't make payments, so he said, fine, I will make the full payment to the mechanic.
Yeah.
But it was always your intention to pay for the repairs of the car, only you wanted to pay for it in a slower fashion.
Right, I was going to make the payments to the mechanic, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, did you pay him back any of the $567?
I gave him $300 to help him with rent, but
Just a second. Tell me when you gave him $300 for rent.
I gave him the $300 on April 29th.
That was after you picked up the car.
Mm-hmm.
Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she give you $300 for rent?
No, Your Honor, I don't need anybody to help me pay my rent.
Do you have any proof that you gave him $300 for rent, a withdrawal from a bank, or anything?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Okay, so far you owe $567. Is that what you paid for her in April?
No, Your Honor, I paid $674.76.
May I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, April 18th. $674. Would you show this to Ms. Strauss? Okay. Mr. Mormon?
Yes, Your Honor.
There subsequently came a time, which I think probably was a more social issue than anything else, when the defendant advised...
I have a different one that shows the receipt right there.
May I see it?
The $567.91.
Well, I actually am not understanding this. He paid for this with his Visa card.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Could you explain this to me? This is your Visa card. This is the same invoice. One of them is for $567.91, and the one that you gave me, the same invoice number, is $674.76. Sarah, would you do me a favor, please?
Sure.
Would you add up?
From both or just the top one?
Well, let's start with just the top one, for which there is a Visa receipt. So I gather that all this became problematic when you started to see a serious boyfriend. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, after March, you said you stayed occasionally at Mr. Mormon's. When you stayed at Mr. Mormon's, was that more of a social? I mean, was it a more intimate relationship than just social friends? This was after March, after you were in the motel.
We're kind of like friends with, benefits in a way, so yeah.
All right, and then you found someone new, and according to him, you advised him that you had somebody new, and now he wants the money for the car, which you were going to pay anyway. You were going to pay
I figured it was a friend helping a friend. I didn't think of it as a loan.
No. It wasn't. Even you say, Ms. Strauss, it was your intention to pay this bill for your car as you would pay the other bills for your car. However, when you got there, you found you couldn't make time payments. So he said, well, you need a car. I'll lay it out up front. But it was always your intention to pay for your own car. Do we have a...
That is the correct number. And then at the bottom, that totals. And then the additional to bring you to 567 is the tax.
Okay. Now, so the next part of your case is about harassment. By whom and for what?
Your Honor, after Mr. Martinez got into the picture...
That's this gentleman.
Yes, ma'am. He was a man of his word, and he was going to pay me not to talk to Sherry any longer, which I didn't.
Okay, so you had a discussion with him that all of her bills he was going to take care of?
Many discussions, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And?
I never got a dime.
Okay, well, what is the harassment?
Text messages. My witness here, Miss Montoya.
No, just a second.
Okay.
Text messages what?
Just saying, hey, leave her alone, which is fine.
Okay, that's all right. That's not harassment.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, fine.
But it was, hey, I'm going to pay you. I'm a man of my word.
Okay, well, you're not
Where's my
suing him,
money?
so who cares about that?
Yeah.
She owes you $567. That's what you put on your Visa. Now, let's get to your money owed for car repairs and harassment. Okay. Now, you don't have a mechanic here, so what your claim is that whatever he did to the car, he didn't do well, so you had to take the car, or you're going to have to take the car to another mechanic. I don't care. You would plan to fix this car yourself. The problem was with payments. If you had to make additional repairs to the car, that's not his problem. Okay, now you want to tell me what the additional harassment is?
Well, that's why I have my two witnesses here. He spent a lot of time calling me names. He's called my fiance names. He showed up at my motel threatening and stuff like that. So
what did he want?
He wanted his money. But at one point...
Now he's got it. I don't need to speak to you.
No, but
now he's got his money.
When I had talked to him before, when he thought that David and I was not together anymore, he said, oh, it's not about the money. He goes, I just want you. He's got several messages from me, how he loves me, he wants to be with me, and all this and that.
Yeah, but you don't love him and you don't want to be with him, so now you have to pay him for your car repairs, $567.
Yeah.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
Well,
we're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
Hey, justice was served, and that's all that matters.
It was about because he didn't have me. I went with somebody else, and I wasn't with him.
She was a friend, and I tried to help her out.
We've been friends for a long time, so I told him we would be, that I wanted to be his friend.
I ain't gonna help, I can tell you that.
I want to continue the friendship, and he didn't want that.
No, never again on her, no.
Time to find another mechanic.
So I really didn't have so much trouble with that case because the defendant had really planned on paying for her car repairs. Do I think that the guy said to her, you can make payments, and when she got there, he said, no, who knows? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
He felt used.
Which I think is valid.
Which, give somebody money, and then you've had sort of a friends with benefits relationship, and all of a sudden you got somebody new, and you're driving around in a car that you paid to repair. Anyway, it was simple and easy.
It was. They're not all that easy.
19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard are suing Brandon's father, William Blanchard, for unpaid wages, property damage, and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2028, Eliasov Blanchard versus Blanchard.
Thank you, Kevin.
Welcome.
Eliasov?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you. How old are you?
19, almost 20.
19.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
I am a server.
Since when?
As of June of this year.
This is your boyfriend?
A fiance, yes, ma'am.
Fiance. And how long has he been your fiance?
For over a year.
What does he do for a living?
He is currently unemployed.
When was the last time he had a job?
That was about a year ago.
What kind of work did he do a year ago?
Warehouse work.
Is there any reason that he hasn't worked in a year?
He has concussions and back injuries. And
from what?
From car accidents.
Does he currently have any lawsuits pending with regard to those accidents?
No, ma'am.
So the accidents were your fault?
No, they were the other people's faults.
The other people had no insurance?
The other person didn't have insurance at the time. So later on, he ended up stating that he did have insurance and got out of the ticket.
Do you see a doctor regularly?
Not anymore, no. I used to, though, until I ran out of my insurance for health insurance. And then the bill just kept stacking up on me.
At that time, did you have an attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have an attorney with regard to, did you ever consult an attorney with regard to these accidents? No.
No.
Okay, fine. Is there any reason why you're not working?
Yes, ma'am. I have bad back problems that I've had for quite some time. I have 4 discs out in my lower back. I also have knee injuries, shoulder injuries. I was pushing my body more than I should have been. I was over 300 pounds working in a heated environment, working every day. And I dropped all the weight, and then I ended up hurting myself even further from there. And then my doctor told me not to do anything over 20 pounds, so I went against her rules, and I did it anyways, and I kept injuring myself.
What kind of work does your father do?
He works as a U-Haul business associate and mechanic as well.
When did you live with your father?
I lived with my father in January, I believe it was 8th.
January of what year?
Of 2022, sorry.
After you have been disabled all this time because of all the heavy work?
Yes.
Let me give a general outline of what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your fiancé were living where?
We were living with my father.
No, before you lived with your father.
My father.
Her father.
In what state?
Wyoming.
There come a time when your father either said it's enough or you decided that you were no longer happy in Wyoming?
It was a conflict with his girlfriend that came about.
Whatever it was. If it was a conflict with his girlfriend, your father told you to skedaddle.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And you called your father.
No, I didn't call my father.
Who did?
My father called me.
You mean just out of the blue?
Yeah, he does it at random
No.
in a while.
He just called you at about the same time that your fiancé's father told you to get out.
Yes, is what I believe. Anyways, I've had a few concussions, Your Honor, and I don't remember a lot.
Okay, we're going to get there. In any event, you had a discussion with your father that you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have a job, she didn't have a job, you had no money, her father was kicking you out of the house, and he drove cross-country to get you.
Yes, ma'am.
In what month?
It was in January.
January of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
How many miles did he drive to come and get you?
I think 1,000 miles maybe.
Each way?
Each way, probably about 2,000 total, something like that.
Okay, so he drove 2,000 miles to come and get you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he brought you back to his house.
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you weren't working, the girlfriend wasn't working, you had no money, so your father was taking care of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And now you're suing him. And you're suing him for a host of things, which I'm going to give you a relatively short time to tell me about. But one of the things that your fiance says is that your father owes you for wages because you worked for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing what?
I was doing U-Haul work, basically.
What is U-Haul work?
Oh, sorry. I'll explain. Sorry, ma'am. Basically, what we do.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically.
Sorry.
I want to hear what you were doing.
I would hook up U-Hauls. I would also clean and inspect all the vehicles.
Just a second. Hook up the U-Hauls.
Hook up the U-Hauls.
Clean and inspect them.
Clean and inspect them.
What does it involve in cleaning them?
Basically spraying down.
Not basically.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. We spray down all the.
Not we. You.
Yeah. Sorry. I spray down every single surface of the innards of the vehicle. Basically, the steering wheel, the floor plates, the radio, everything.
And when you hook them up, explain how you hook something up.
How I hook something up is just backing up, lining up with.
So you'd have to drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're driving a car and backing up.
Yes, ma'am. And
so
then,
you're using a rear view mirror?
Yes.
And yourself. You're looking to see where you're backing up because you have to use both.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you hook them. Well, what else did you do for your father?
I also did paperwork for him, doing like inventory stocks and stuff like that.
Terrific.
Basically.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically. Basically is a filler
Sorry,
word.
ma'am. What else was I doing? I would sweep, clean up his shop. I would do a lot of things.
Okay, all while you were unable to do anything else.
Yes, ma'am. I would.
Just a second.
What were you saying?
After your back issues, after your concussions, after whatever other injuries that you had from working someplace. By the way, you don't have a lawsuit pending against anybody, do you?
No, ma'am.
So it's just a question of fetching, other than maybe trying to collect a disability somewhere along the line from the federal government. You were able to hook up U-Hauls, clean them and sanitize them, sweep out the premises, do paperwork, but you can't work. I mean, because part of the lawsuit is about all this work that you did, but all while you're telling me that you're unemployable because of all the injuries that you had.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okie dokie. You understand how ridiculous that sounds to me.
Yes.
I only had one other case in my recent memory that sounded anywhere familiar to this story, and that was a man that was also receiving disability because he had a bad back. He was the plaintiff in a lawsuit suing someone because he had built them an outdoor patio deck alone, and he wasn't paid the $6,000 for it. But he had been collecting disability for a back ailment for 31 years from the federal government. That sound odd to you?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it sound odd to you that you're able to put hookups together and sweep and everything else, but you can't say, do you want a hamburger with your fries or fries with a burger?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds peculiar to you. Right. So I don't want to hear about work. Okay, that's the first thing. And you lived in your father's house for how long, by the way?
I think we only lived there for the first month, and then we ended up getting moved out to a camper for like the last bit of the, I think, 2 months that we were there.
I don't know what you're suing for. You want to tell me? I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go.
And later today.
That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100, and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used?
She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you.
"19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard claim Brandon's father, William Blanchard, owes for unpaid wages and stolen property. William is countersuing for moving expenses and property damage.
Now, I'm not entertaining your wages because you can't work. That's what he just swore to. He can't work. That's why he's unemployed. He has 4 disc problems. I think he said 4, whatever. He can't work. Forget him now. I want you to tell me what you're suing this man who drove 2,000 miles to rescue you after your father threw you out. I want you to tell me what you think he owes you for.
For the stolen property of my vehicle.
What stolen property of your vehicle?
He stole my toolbox with the key with it and also parts that went to my vehicle.
Did you take her toolbox?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Next. What's next?
Whenever I confronted him about it.
About what?
About the toolbox when we went to go get my truck, then he would say what he just said, that he never took it. But when I asked him where did the key go for it, he denied he would just ignore that fact.
Well, it's not a fact. It's not a fact unless you can prove that he took your property. You said he just said to you, I don't have your toolbox.
But my vehicle was on his property, in his possession.
Okay, and that's what you have. Your vehicle, while you were living there, was on his property, and therefore he's responsible for the toolbox.
Yes, ma'am. When he kicked us out and then told us to come back for the truck, he was going to give us 2 weeks to have it towed.
Because the truck wasn't working, but he let the truck stay on his property for 2 weeks.
Yes.
What else are you suing him for?
Just for the repairs on the vehicle.
On what vehicle?
On my truck. That whenever I went to go get the truck off his property after that 2 weeks, that's when the toolbox was missing, and I also looked under the hood, and there was wires hanging out, and those wires, I do have pictures.
Just a second. Let me ask you this question. You said, you said he gave you 2 weeks to come and get your truck off his property. The truck was inoperable when you left it on his property. Wasn't running.
No, ma'am.
That's right. You did not come to get it off his property in 2 weeks. You came after the 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
How much after the 2 weeks?
I think just like a couple days after. We came back on April 23rd and we left the property April 6th.
So it was after the 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's get there fast because I'm quickly losing patience with 2 ingrates.
Here's the pictures.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go. Move on. Your father came 2,000 miles to get you. He fed you for a month. He kept a roof over your head for a month. In return, you're suing him for nonsense. Let us move on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. Now, Mr. Blanchard.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a countersuit that actually you wouldn't have brought now because you didn't have an agreement with your son and his fiancée when you went to get him. How many children do you have?
8 altogether.
Prior to going to get him cross-country, when had you seen him?
Been several years.
Tell me about the conversation when he contacted you.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go. We can try to stay with her grandmother. I offered, said, I'll come get you if you have no place to go.
And then?
Within a week, I dropped everything to go get him.
Now, when your son and his fiancée came to you, sir, did you put him to work in your business?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long was he in your business?
Altogether, maybe less than 90 days.
Did he work in your business after they moved out of your house? He says they only lived in your house for 30 days.
They were in the house 45 days, and then they were left another 45 days inside of a camper.
Can you tell me why they moved into a camper?
There was a chance of my daughter coming home, and they were living in her room at the time. And so I wanted to make sure they still had something, so I put them into a camper.
Camper on your property?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of camper?
Small camper.
So they used the inside of the house to shower and
yes, Your Honor.
Stuff, but they slept in the camper?
Yes, Your Honor.
All true?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And he paid for the camper. He paid for the electricity, water, etc. when you were in now. She wasn't working. Did he also pay for the food? Did you eat in the house or did you eat in the camper?
No, ma'am. We were getting food stamps. So we paid for our own food. And we also helped them with their food as well.
Why were you getting food stamps?
For the short bit of time because he recommended to get on food stamps.
Had you been on food stamps when you lived in Wyoming?
No, ma'am.
Okay, how did you support yourself there?
I was working at the time.
And what about him?
Driving company, basically, we go around, pick up food from places and deliver.
So you were able to drive?
Yes.
Oh.
For only a little bit.
With all those injuries? Amazing. Okay. I would like you to testify, sir, now to the conversation that you had with your son with regard to compensation for coming to pick him up in Wyoming. Be very careful what you say to me.
I told my son before I picked him up, I said, you need to pay me back for this trip.
Did you tell him what for the trip? I mean,
yes, for all expenses. All expenses for the trip.
For the expenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
How was he supposed to do that? He wasn't working.
He was supposed to get a nighttime job on top of working, helping me out around my shop.
Did he help you around your shop?
He
You
did.
said about 90 days. Did you pay him?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if he worked for you for 90 days and you didn't pay him at all, and it cost you a couple of $1,000s, according to you,
yes, Your Honor,
to go out and get him, hire trucks, spend time back, whatever it was. And he worked for you for 90 days without compensation. Why do you think he did that?
I was hoping just because that's what he really wanted to do.
No good deed goes unpunished. You went and you got him, and now they're suing you, but their case is dismissed. They have no case against you. It's all a bunch of nonsense and ridiculous. But likewise, sir, your counterclaim is for the expenses that you incurred in going to pick them up. I don't actually think that there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, but even if there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, the fact that he worked for 90 days without any compensation, I think, more than compensates you for that. As a result of that, your counterclaim as well is dismissed. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
You try to do your best for your kids whenever you can. This is no different.
It's been very difficult growing up.
I hope he gets his life together.
I don't want anything to do with him.
I'll always be there for him.
It's time to cut the strings. I'm done with him.
That young man sounded as if he was intelligent. That doesn't mean he was smart. That means he was intelligent. Because at age 19 or 20, to have already figured out that you can't work because you have a bad back unless you really have to work. If you really have to work, then you can work for your father. That's a bad mindset for a very young person. That means that your life is really going nowhere. You're not preparing yourself to do anything.
And to take it a step further and to sue the only person that was there for you in a time when you needed them.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Dog breeder Kenneth Bearden is suing his customer, Zach Thompson, for the balance of a puppy.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2044, Bearden versus Thompson.
Mr. Bearden.
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that the defendant owes you the balance of a dog that you sold to him.
Correct, Your Honor.
That's what the case is about. Defendant says he doesn't really think he got what he bargained for, and while he has no intention of returning the dog to you, he doesn't want to pay the balance.
Yes.
Be a yes. So I have a couple of questions, because it's not a terribly difficult case. You say in your complaint that you are a breeder of full-blood tricolor bullies.
Correct. Bully breed, American bullies, and these are tricolor American bullies, which have 5 different distinctions within the American bully breed realm.
I don't want you to try to confuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more than I'm confused about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Is an American bully a pit bull?
No, I have proof.
Shh. It is not.
It is not.
What is it a combination of?
Yes, it is a combination of.
Well, I know it's a combination of, but it's been recognized by the American Kennel Club as an independent breed of dog. But that is only recently. What is the American bully a combination of?
Honestly, can I read what I have?
No, if you say I don't, listen to me.
Yeah,
I know it's very, very hard for
Yeah.
men to say 3 words. I don't know. Somehow they can say, I love you, I hate you, get out of my parking space, you're snoring. They can say a whole bunch of things, but they have trouble saying those 3 words.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know.
I fully own that. Yes, ma'am.
I
don't know.
don't know. Well, Sarah, look it up.
Will do.
American bully.
Says that originally standardized and recognized as a breed in 2004 by the American Bully Kennel Club.
2004.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's recognized a breed in 2004, it's got to be a mix of something.
So the American Bully was started by crossing the American Pit Bull Terrier with other dogs in the Bully breed family, and sometimes dogs outside of the Bully breed family. But it's become its own breed.
It's become its own breed, but started with the American Pit Bull. That's what that says. Do you want her to read it again?
So there's also bully dogs are descendants from the crosses between ancient bulldogs and a variety of British terriers. And this says an American bully was started by the crossing of the American Pit Bull Terrier with dogs in the other bully breed family.
And ultimately, it was recognized as a breed unto itself, although I don't understand how that could happen. If you're a cross between one breed, the American Pit Bull, and a variety of other dogs, you know, that's like a golden doodle. That's like a golden retriever and a poodle. Isn't that what a golden doodle is?
I believe so.
But it's not a breed unto itself. It's a cross between a couple of dogs, so it takes many years. And this sounds to me, at least, Mr. Bearden, as the bullies that you're describing that you breed, the genesis of that breed is an American Pit Bull with a variety of other things. Could be a boxer,
It could also, like the father, it could be a Rottweiler. Like the father of the puppies that he got, he has all the markings of a Rottweiler, but he has the head shape and body style that represents more of the pit bull style.
So that's information that I am now at least a little armed with. So now I'm going to come back to you. You're the breeder. And you said the puppies, that the litter that you sold to Tim, one of the puppies, has Rottweiler in it.
No, I'm not saying that it has Rottweiler. I'm saying that the physical representation of it, the markings, the brown over the eyes, the brown hair, that's what the dad looks like. The puppies don't look like that.
Just a second. So you bred the dogs. What breed is the father?
The father is American Bully. He's considered an XL American Bully.
The father is an American Bully. In the father's history, it appears, based upon the look of the dog, is this what I'm understanding?
Yes.
It's a Rottweiler. In the history of the dog.
Yeah, it could possibly, yes. That's why he looks like that now,
It
yes.
could possibly be a gerbil, but a gerbil doesn't have distinctive markings. What you're telling me is the dog has the distinctive markings of a Rottweiler, but the body of a pit bull.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, what a combo.
He's beautiful. He's a beautiful dog.
They're beautiful dogs. Both of those dogs, by the way, will not be covered by most insurance policies. Pit bulls and Rottweilers. You do know that?
Yes.
Say yes loud.
Yes,
so
yes, I know that, yes.
Okay. Did you know that?
I did not.
Well, it's interesting. Do you own your own home?
Yeah.
Yes is an answer.
Yes.
Do you have homeowners insurance?
Yes.
In your application for homeowners insurance, they would ask you what kind of dog you have, if you have any. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you write down what kind of a dog you had?
I didn't have a dog at the time.
I want you to read over your homeowner's policy, wherever you live. Who are you covered by?
Not exactly sure.
What do you mean not certain? You don't know who your homeowner's policy is with?
It's all in the bill.
What
It's all paid for, one yearly fee.
You mean for your car, for your home,
Yes.
everything else? I would check, sir. If you own your own home, did you have a lot invested in your home?
Yes.
I would take a look, because many insurance companies now will not insure or charge an extra premium, if they would insure, homes that have, as part of their household, certain breeds of dogs. I am telling you, and he knows it, that pit bulls and Rottweilers are in that group.
Yep.
So if something happens and your dog bites somebody and they will sue you, and you'll say, well, I have homeowners insurance, your policy might just disclaim.
That's why I didn't want a pit bull.
What do you think you got?
A pit bull.
You got an American Bully, and it's not so hard to look up. You do have a tablet or something?
A bully, when you look it up, it actually is American Bulldog and a Stanford Terrier. It's
Well,
not,
an American Bulldog and a Staffordshire Terrier. You know what Staffordshire Terrier is.
yeah.
What is it?
I mean, it's pit bull.
Right, that's what it is. Everybody tries to use different language because they want to get away from that. It's a bully, it's a terrier, it's a something else. But bottom line, that's what it is. And you know that's what it is, whether it's a half or a quarter. You know it's listed among those breeds that the insurance company is not going to cover you for. And you have knowledge of that. You got to be careful. So it was your understanding that you were purchasing from the plaintiff a what?
A full 100% bully.
There's no 100% bully. There is no 100% bully. You just told me a bully is a mix between a...
After so long, it's considered a full bully. That's from my understanding.
That's not what that says. It says, among other things. You really have to be more vigilant. Don't tell me what your friends told you. Don't tell me what they did. Don't tell me what they said. He told you that he was selling you an American Bully.
Dog breeder Kenneth Bearden claims his customer, Zach Thompson, owes for the balance of a puppy. Zach says he did not receive the full-blooded American Bully he purchased.
Okay, tell me when and under what circumstances Mr. Thompson purchased this puppy from you.
Yes, Your Honor. On April 28th, the defendant reached out to me. He was stating his name. Sorry. He was stated his name, and that his daughter was playing with the puppy of a friend of his, and that friend of his had bought one of the puppies from my litter. She fell in love with the dog. She loved it. He wanted to come by and possibly get another puppy.
How old's your daughter?
7.
If I could do that thing that some people do and, cross their eyes on purpose, I would do that for you. Now, is this your only child?
Yes.
Okay.
After he reached out to me, we exchanged numbers and spoke for a few days over Facebook Messenger. I gave him my number. We had a conversation on the phone about prices, about the breed, and payments, because he reached out to me originally stating that, hey, I don't have that full amount that you would be asking for.
Just a second, could I see text messages where you've discussed the price?
Yes, ma'am.
And where you agreed on a price?
That was, so we agreed on a price verbally. The text messages is where I sent him my number. Right after I sent him my number, that's when we had the conversation about prices and payments.
Let me see what you...
Yes, ma'am. Do you want text messages and the Facebook messages?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
read any.
quite a bit. It's all in order from front to back. From
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Just about the price of the dog, please.
Well, like I said, Your Honor, the price of the dog was a verbal conversation.
I understand that. The initial discussion that you had with him, you told him what you wanted for the dog.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Thompson, and you wrote, I told him I would even take the runt if you're willing to help me get a puppy for my daughter, right? Okay. How old was the puppy when the puppy was delivered to Mr. Thompson?
They were right at 2 months and 2 weeks, I believe.
So about 10 weeks old?
Yeah, they were born February 20th. This was May 1st when they were...
Do you have a contract with him other than over the phone?
When he came there that morning...
That's either a yes or a no.
No.
You do not have a written contract.
The only contract that we have is of him giving me his ID, letting me take a picture of it because I didn't have any print or ink at the time.
You don't have a contract with him?
No.
Are you a married guy?
No, Your Honor.
Yeah. You know, how did I know that? Because you talk a lot. Most married guys don't talk so much. They answer 2 or 3 words, and that's it. Do you live alone?
Yes, it's just me and my son.
How old is your son?
He's 12.
And how many of these dogs do you have roaming around?
I have 2.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, the plaintiff delivered the dog to you. You had no written contract with him. You just agreed to take the dog at a certain price, correct?
Correct.
He agreed to sell you the dog, and you discussed he got this much with papers, this much without, but he was willing to work with you without papers, correct?
Yes, correct.
So you were getting a dog without AKC papers for how much?
$500.
$500.
$100 down.
Just a sec. What?
$100 down and then $100 every 2 weeks until it was paid off.
So you gave him the $100?
Yes.
And then you never paid him any more?
Well, before the next payment was even there, I questioned him about being a full bully, because everybody kept telling me it wasn't a full bully because I have multiple friends that...
Don't tell me what your friends told you. Don't tell me what they did. Don't tell me what they said. He told you that he was selling you an American bully.
Yep.
Without papers.
Yes.
So that you weren't going to use this dog for any breeding purposes.
Yes, didn't plan to.
Because you don't have papers, and that would be sort of foolish for you.
Yeah.
Did your daughter fall in love with the dog? Got the dog that she wanted, right?
Yeah, she
a little female called
Zoe.
Zoe.
Yeah, she picked her out.
Your Honor,
And she just...
I disagree with that also.
What?
When he originally arrived that morning, he was trying to get a different dog. He wanted a certain one.
Just a second. Your daughter picked this dog out.
Yeah.
Correct.
You disagree with that?
The daughter and him both wanted a different dog at first.
We had our mind set on a certain puppy before we got there. When we showed up, the puppy that we wanted was getting taken by another people that she...
So your daughter picked another puppy?
Yes, yes.
Correct.
Let's not make this harder than it is. She picked the one that she was happy with.
Yeah.
And she's still happy with it.
Yep.
And she likes it.
Yes.
You wouldn't take it away from her.
No, I would not.
You wouldn't give it back to him.
No, I would not.
Then you have to pay for it.
Well, I would have.
What is so hard about that?
Well, he lied about the shots. He never sent me proof for the first
Just a
shot.
second. You have a contract. That's if you're going to pay. He says $750. You say $500. Whether it's $750 or $500, what you're supposed to have if you're a breeder is a written contract. If that's what you do, you have a written contract. I always have a contract when I buy puppies. The breeders, reputable breeders, demand it. They say that they guarantee the health of the puppy for a certain period of time. You can take the dog to have it checked by a vet within a certain period of time. It says whether the puppy had its first shots or second shots or had no shots. It says all that. That's it. Other than that, I don't remember what these contracts said, but I bought many, and they are pretty much standard. You bought a dog for either $750 or $500 that you didn't pay for, and now you have a bunch of excuses. Did you take the dog to a vet and have the dog tested as to its heritage?
I have not.
Well, then you can't tell me what your friend said to you. Whether your friend said that looks like, it doesn't look like, I don't know what it looks like, that's not relevant. If he's saying to you, this is an American bully, and you've had the dog professionally tested, the DNA of that dog tested, and it turns out that it's a cacophony of things, which clearly it is because it's a mix of things. What if you have to pay for the dog? You ate the steak. You don't want to give it back. The only question is, how much did you make an arrangement to pay? You say it was $750.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is you have any paperwork to show that?
I do not, Your Honor. Like I said, when he left, I have them contracts. I didn't have any more printer ink. He had to leave and be somewhere else. That's when I asked to go ahead and take a picture of his ID, and I plan to get the contract at a later date.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
was he originally asking for $1,000 for the dog?
He never originally asked me for $1,000.
No, but is that what your friend paid for his dog?
I don't know what my friend paid for the dog, but I know that he was having trouble selling him, so he marked down the price. I have a Facebook post where he actually, on his own Facebook, before I'd even...
Oh, do you have what?
I don't have it printed out. I have it on my phone. I'm willing to
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see it. Does it list a price on it?
Don't have a price. It just talks about where he's willing to sell them and work with people on deals and stuff, because he couldn't sell them this before I even met the guy.
Okay, well, so, and do you acknowledge that you posted that, sir? That you were willing to make deals with people because you were having difficulty getting rid of the puppies? You're going to pay him the balance of $400 now because you have the dog. Do you understand? A bully isn't a full-bred dog. A bully has a lot of other things in it. Do you understand?
Dog breeder Kenneth Bearden is accusing his customer, Zach Thompson, of refusing to pay the balance on an American Bully puppy. Zach says he didn't receive the purebred he was promised and tried to return the dog.
And do you acknowledge that you posted that, sir? That you were willing to make deals with people because you were having difficulty getting rid of the puppies?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see his...
Make it a little brighter.
Because you say here that you usually sell them $2,000 with papers and $1,000 without.
Yes.
Okay.
And my Facebook...
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
5 pups left and needing good homes. These are full-blooded American tricolor bullies. Please help us find them homes. I'm willing to negotiate and rediscuss price payment at any point. Okay, so you're willing to work with anybody?
Exactly.
Okay, so when you had a conversation with him, tell me what price you arrived at.
We arrived at $750, and when we spoke, he told me that he would give me $100 every week. And also in our text messages, it also states where he mentioned if his taxes came, he would pay me in full.
Okay, but you talked about pay $100 every week.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
In my messages, there's a few times where I reference $500, and he never says, well, it's $750, not $500.
Okay, can I see those?
Yeah.
I'd like to see them.
In that message...
Now,
and we also talked...
Just give me the message.
Okay. Here's the one that states 500 right here.
Yeah, I believe that the price you negotiated was $500 because the only one of the litigants that has any messages, that has any number in it, is the defendant, who talks, at least on 2 occasions, of the fact that he doesn't want to pay $500 for a mixed breed dog. And there's nothing in it that says, sir, it wasn't $500, it was $750. You gave me $100, so you still owe me $650. That's what the response should have been, and you didn't do that, sir. So
I would have had no problem paying the $500 if it was a full bully. No problem at all.
You're going to pay him the balance of $400 now because you have the dog.
Okay.
Do you understand? A bully isn't a full-bred dog. A bully has a lot of other things in it. Do you understand?
Well,
and you want to keep the dog.
No, I wanted to bring the dog back. He said I could bring the dog back, and then he wrote back and said, okay, I could bring it back.
I just asked you a question. You want me to have her read it back to me? You just said...
I don't want to bring the dog back now.
Well, now is what we're talking about. Now is where we are.
It's 4 or 5 months now my daughter has fell in love, but the first 10 days, I did ask to bring it back. He said, okay.
Right now, we're not in the first 10 days. Right now, we're here. I asked you a question. Do you want to give him the dog back?
If that's what it takes, yes.
You ready to take the dog back?
I do not want. Once we sold the animal,
Well, if he says that there is no proof that this litter was a full-blooded American bully, and you have the American Kennel Club records that show that it is, that because you must have registered the litter. That's what happens, Mr. Bearden, when you have a full-blooded dog. You register the litter, and then if you're selling it with papers, the new owner will register the dog with the AKC in their name. So all you have to do now is show me the registration for that litter. That's either a show me or I don't have it.
I do not have that, Your Honor. Because there was no reason. That's why the puppies were $2,000 with papers and $1,000 without. There's no reason going the extra mile. That's why they have the $2,000 option of me taking that headache off their shoulder.
No. That's a lot of who shot John, sir. If you are a breeder, that's what you identify yourself as. I am a breeder of.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? And clearly you are a breeder of because he saw puppies from another litter of yours, which drove him and his daughter to contact you.
Yes, Your Honor.
So if you're a breeder, you register that litter so that if you want to sell it, a puppy with papers, you've already registered that litter. Either you can use it or not. Do you understand what I'm saying? You would know exactly what I'm saying.
That's the normal process of things,
okay.
Yes.
And right now, Mr. Thompson, at this point, I agree that you agreed to pay $500 for the dog and gave him a $100 deposit.
Yes.
Which means you owe him $400.
He said I could bring the dog back at one point because I wanted to bring the dog back because I didn't think it was the dog I wanted.
I'm talking about now.
Yes, I know, but then
he said no.
And then he said no 2 days later, and then he said he's going to take me to court, or he threatened me and said he's going to have someone come get the money out of me if not. And then that's when I stopped responding. After he threatened me, I stopped responding. And that was before our first initial payment. That was within the first 10 days, and it wasn't even in the 14 days yet when I was going to make my payment.
Did you pay him?
No, I didn't.
$100?
I paid him $100, yes.
Yes, I'm talking about $100.
Yes, I did.
So what do you want me to do today?
I don't think he deserves nothing. He lied about the breed. He never sent me shots. No. He lied about those.
Yeah, just a second.
And then he threatened me.
Do you want to return the dog to him, or do you want to pay him the $400?
I'll return the dog to him.
Fine. He's returning the dog to you.
You
understand?
I paid all the vet bills.
Just a second.
Vet bills.
I don't care, but I will prepare an order that within 5 days of today, you will deliver the dog back. He delivered the dog to you?
No, I went to his house, picked it up.
You went to his house? Mm-hmm. Great. How far do you live from each other?
30 minutes, probably.
Is there a police precinct in the middle? Because I don't want this done at anybody's house. What police precinct is closest to you, sir?
The Bullitt County Police Department.
That's where you will meet 5 days from today. What's a good time for you?
4 p.m., 5 p.m.
What's a good time for you?
Whenever.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
Yes, Your Honor.
Fine. We'll prepare an order, give it to you. You meet at the precinct and exchange the dog.
Will he pay me from what I gave him?
He'll give you back the $100.
What about all the vet bills?
That you eat.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the order. That's what he wants.
Sounds good.
Let him go explain it to his daughter. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Let him win.
This court is adjourned.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly I'm going to do moving forward.
I didn't feel like I got the dog that I wanted.
I never made a threat to him, never did anything like that. I told him that I would take him to court.
There was definitely a better dog out there.
I'm an honest, hardworking man, and I deserve what he's supposed to pay to me.
So I was so confused because as I'm looking for where it comes from, because I know it's not a purebred, it said the American Bully is a great family dog because although bred from pit bulls, which sometimes have an aggressive tendency, the aggressive tendencies of American Bullies have been bred out. And I was a little bit confused how you could breed out the aggression.
I don't know. I hate to be that guy going home today to explain to his 7-year-old that she's losing her puppy.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to go home to that.
Hi, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh một đôi giày cắm những bông hoa nha. Sẽ lấy màu vàng này tô cho bông hoa. Tông màu xanh và cuống. Màu đen vào đây. Vậy là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh những bông hoa cắm trong một chiếc giày. Và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.